flexibility.
Adaptability, as Dom just said, is absolutely, unequivocally what episode 4 for the Mock Draft Friday show is all about. Because Jerry Jones decided to come out here and drop some bombs and everything else, we have a show lined up, if you will. We were to get to that. We are going to get to that stuff that we talked about. Big move, top 10. We got the top 10s on deck. Right. Wide receivers, starting our new series. We got the mock draft. Oh, but boy, Dom, I think we'll have to do some due diligence here on this Jerry Jones combine talk as we were in the space earlier tonight.
Yeah, we must. It'd be malpractice on our part not to. So
that's a big fact. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, the Mock Draft Friday show begins right now.
BJ Nix, are you here?
Present.
Present. Spoonie, Timothy Spoonie.
Present, sir.
Margaret and Mary. Do we have a Margaret and Mary?
Yes. Cool. And the margaritas.
All right. Class here. We're ready. Let's go.
Yes, let's go.
Okay.
This is the time to line up behind your team, to support your team. Have faith in that team.
It's peaks and valleys. It can't always be good. And as I always tell people, you're never as good as you think you are, and you're never as bad as you think you are. But when we do know about
house call, Trevon Diggs pick 6. Coming, they see it, knocked away. Oh, Gregory! Hurts in trouble. 3 Cowboys wrap him up, make it 4. Micah Parsons is unblockable.
Oh, Deacon, I might need some of those Sunday words from you. I don't know. I might need some of these Sunday words from you. Jerry Jones came out here a little over an hour ago, and I tell you, he went to slanging this snake oil, and there's a snake in my boot, and the contract and everything. Oh my God, Dom, my goodness. I don't even know where to begin.
I think we should begin with the Dak Prescott talk. How we continue to hear this front office through Steven, through Jerry, bring up the fact that Dak Prescott is a $40 million quarterback. And how that, for some reason, is the main sore spot in trying to be able to build this team out around him.
Yeah. Yeah, and look, I knew Jerry was ready. He canceled the postseason press conference on 105.3 The Fan interview. He's been patiently waiting. And he had a lot to say. I kind of started with some of this running back talk and whatever the case may be. And then, he kind of got into his bag of the, as he said, verbatim. It's difficult to give quarterback Dak Prescott the type of supporting cast he had early in his NFL career. Okay? Early in his NFL career. because he's on a second contract. Dak Prescott currently scheduled to count $49.1 million against the cap. The funniest thing about that in general is you just literally had Steven a couple of days ago getting to the combine. We're just gonna wake up, the deal's gonna be done. It's gonna wake up, the deal's gonna be done. It's fine. It's fine. And then Snake Old Jerry, as the star turns, hashtag it, as the star turns, like, you know, the more stories as your grandparents used to tell you, your mom used to tell you, stay home from school. We're watching them stories, you know, the young and the restless of the world, as the days of our lives and General Hospital. We live within that constraint of as the star turns, if you will. I think just simply for me, it's what I understand is the Cowboys definitely understand what happens social media wise and understand buttons to push. I just think they do, period. Number two is that Lamar Jackson's situation up there in Baltimore is very indifferent. Look, even to the standpoint that people don't talk about it at a big level, that maybe he could have played the playoff game and chose not to play. But that's neither here nor there. There's not a team with a top 10 quarterback. I don't care what you think about Dak Prescott. I don't care. Argue with your mama. I'm not saying he's a top 5 quarterback. I'm not. 7, 8, 9, 10. He's a top 10 quarterback. That would be franchise. Top 1/3 of this league. He's a top 10 quarterback. And there's not a single NFL team out of all 32 that deal with the top 10 quarterback the way the Cowboys have as they have with Dak Prescott. Some of it may be saltiness because they couldn't get the deal done with him out of the 4 years. Their fault in what they did. And now you are at the table again. But just astronomically terrible organizational talk. Take football out of it. Any business that you run, just go ahead and just go ahead and flush your CEO and how terrible he is as the owner. I don't know, Professor O. I don't want to really get too far down on that topic. We have some stuff to get into. But boy, Jerry, during the space before we got here, had a lot to say, O.
He did. And first off, hope you guys had a great Friday. But Jerry's talking, and all I can think about is our guy, Macho Man Randy Savage, said it best.
You told some of the biggest lies that I've ever heard of.
I mean, think about it. We can't pay quarterbacks, right? Like, we're the only team that has this issue. If you have a top price quarterback, apparently any other team that has a top 10 paid quarterback should just be cutting players, letting them walk, talking to free agents and saying, the way our bank account's set up, we just can't make this work. Because look at it this way. Dak Prescott's cap hits. He's played 7 seasons. 6 of those 7 seasons, his cap hit was under $20 million. This year, obviously, it jumps up big time. But it's not like we've had Dak at like 38 million, 40 million, 42 million, where it's like escalating.
But they'll say he made $75 million in his first year of his new deal. But it wasn't a cap hit, though.
Cap doesn't matter, though. Right. Yeah, the cap hit. So cash paid, yes, that's true. But the cap hit obviously wasn't, as we all know. And not to mention, had you paid him when you should have paid him instead of the running back that you're now talking about wanting to keep, and that's a whole different debate, he would have cost like 30 million, 32 million, whatever. So his cap hits the last 3 years would have been even lower. Like, what are we doing? But like you said, it's one of those things. They know what is going to spark conversation, and here we are conversing about it. Right. I do want to point out, Jerry was talking about Mike McCarthy. I just want to run the damn ball. And he said, I don't know that I really want to run the ball more. I just want to run it more effectively. And I'm like, I think truly when this run the ball conversation is going on, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think most in the community, we just want to have an effective running game. We want to be able to rely on the run game. You want to be able to say, hey, when we run the ball, whether it's 25 times or 31 times, whatever it actually comes down to, we're able to be productive and take some of the pressure off of the passing attack and keep the defense honest and milk the clock and give the defense a rest and all the things that come to running the ball. So at least Jerry said that. That was the one silver lining. But everything else that he said, I'm like, do you guys want to talk? I guess actually we'll save that because Jerry did have a nugget that kind of ties into the big move situation.
Sure.
But Jerry's comments today.
Yeah.
To piggyback on what you were talking about, last year we ran the ball 47% of the time.
Right.
It's the sixth most in the NFL, by the way.
Right. So it's not about running the ball more.
Yeah.
It's always been about the efficiency. So I just wanted to add in the actual percentage where we were at 53 to 47 pass to run. So I don't think it would behoove Dallas to go ahead and up that to, making the imbalance be more on the rushing the ball side. But I love that comment by Jerry of it's all about the effectiveness, the efficiency when it comes to running the ball.
Right, and then that's what the one thing that we pounded here, and obviously, in the back channels with you, Dom, but now on camera now. But we was on camera last year. It was like we're okay with running the ball. It has to be efficient, and Jerry kind of co-signed that. It's not about the number of runs; it's about being efficient within those runs in what you're doing. And of course, ultimately, what matters here when teams are up late in the games, guess what they do? They run the ball more to kill the clock and get up out with the dub. So it's just about being efficient. But I want to take it. I don't want to spend too much time. Obviously, guys, I know y'all follow us on the social medias. We're doing the big move, question mark. What does that mean? We're doing our top 10, and we're starting the series this week. Moving forward, each and every Friday, we're doing our top 10 consensus at each position. Tonight will be wide receiver. Then, of course, always, we're going to end with the mock draft. We're going to end with the mock draft as well. But Jerry came out and said some things. And again, boy, it came in late on the space, so I've already committed, I should say. I will run a space after here, and we'll get into that more. I don't want to eat up a lot of our time here because that's not what y'all coming here for. But I do want to touch a couple of things quickly with you guys. And that, shout out to Mario who said this in the space. They lost leverage. If the deal's not done by Tuesday, they're tagging Pollard. Okay, well, if I'm Pollard, why am I going to sign for $8 million or $9 million? You're going to tag me for 10.01. I'll just take the tag. We'll figure it out there because once I'm tagged, that's the floor of my deal. And then, of course, back to the Jerry comments, he sees a way that they can do him and Zeke, which is crazy because in the space, like the doomsday scenario for me, this is where you got in there, Dom. I was like, they keep both of them running back for 1 year, Dalton Schultz-esque, and then let them walk, and then they take that money and go get Parsons done. And then in real time, as it was happening, my head was spinning because Jerry comes out and says, we can keep both guys. I can see it financially keeping Zeke and Pollard. Well, the take's 10.01. At best, and I've always said this and I pounded the table, Zeke being in Dallas is a $5 million deal, in my opinion. It's always been the way. I got some pushback on that. But Dom, you brought these numbers up properly, and I want you to kind of give the context here about that 4.8, aka 5 to maybe 6, and what that means in that realm of the June 1st, post June 1st cut here when it comes to Zeke.
Yeah, a lot of fans are definitely confused about what a player makes. They look at the cap hit and they consider, that's what the player takes home. That's far from the truth. You have to look at the base salary. You have to look at earlier in the contract what may have occurred with signing bonuses, roster bonuses. But for Zeke, the way his contract looks now, he is due $10.9 million in base salary coming up this next season. And that's going to be week to week, check to check. He has zero guaranteed dollars left in his deal. So it would be beneficial for him, being an older running back with tread on the tires, to try to want to get some guarantees. But for Dallas, you don't want to extend him out and give him guarantees beyond this year. So you're working with $10.9 million. And if you're Jerry and Steven, you're going to Zeke's agent trying to figure out what is the perfect number as far as a salary reduction. What is that number? What can we get it to in order to make it beneficial to have some cap savings from that and not have to outright release the player, where now you're having to fill that hole anyways, accrue dead money, and not really have that great of a savings if you do it a pre-June 1 cut. So basically, if you can get Zeke down by $4.8 million, that's the exact same impact as it would be if you cut him and designated him not as the post-June 1, but a pre-June 1 cut. That's why you're saying if Zeke is willing to take a $5 million trim, you just rounded it out. If he's willing to take a $5 million pay cut, it actually makes quite a lot of sense to just keep him, run it back with Zeke, and still have a little bit of money, that $5 million or so, to apply that to Pollard on a new deal or if they can't get it done, it's going to apply to the money that you can have to pay him on a tag of $10 million. So be looking out for the talks with Zeke. And if you really see him take that $5 million pay cut, that's actually something to celebrate, because then the next year you can do whatever you need to do with him and not still have to worry about a massive amount of dead money nor guaranteed money going to the player.
Real quick, before we jump into the next topic, there was one thing that kind of ties into what we were just talking about, running back wise, and it was a Jerry comment specifically talking about the potential of franchise tagging Tony Pollard, and he made a very interesting comment when he said, "No, I would never commit to that." You know why? Because there may be another player I'm trying to sign that I'm threatening to put the franchise tag on.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, let me pivot to this. Let me wrap up this because I want to ask you this question, though, and then we'll kind of get to that. Is that at that point, 10.01 and 5, we're saying now, okay, we're going to commit minimum. I think the floor is $15 million at running back with Zeke and Pollard. That's a scary proposition. And to me, and I tweeted, I think if that's the $15 million realm, I don't know how you bring LV or Donovan Wilson back if you want to pivot and do other things. How do you land with the $15 million proposition here with the tag to Pollard and Zeke taking the cut down to $5 million?
I mean, I think you're spot on. I don't know how you could possibly pay both of those guys in either of the other two. Like it just when you want to talk about only having so much pie, like literally imagine a pie chart and forget the player. Like just think about the position. How much money am I paying for this specific position? And obviously some groups like your wide receivers, you have 5 or 6 of them on the roster, and 1 or 2 of those may be a high price player. So it's conceivable that position may take up more of the pie chart than what you want to use. But I don't think paying running backs $15 million, especially for what you're getting out of these guys and knowing that that's the single easiest position to replace on the roster, it makes much sense. But it definitely feels like the Cowboys are going to go that route, because even if we let Zeke walk, right, you're looking at his June 1st cap savings, essentially a post June 1st cut, I should say, essentially being what you're paying Tony Pollard on a franchise tag. So if you're paying that plus whatever you pay Malik Davis, which is not a lot, like $700K or whatever that is, plus a draft pick, and let's say it's a relatively high, like 2nd, 3rd round guy, you're still paying that position $12 or $13 million. Like when it's all said and done, you're looking at the 3 pieces together. So it's not what I want to do, but it definitely feels like what the Jerry Jones and the Stephen Jones of the world want to do. And obviously what they want is more important than what we want as fans, because they own the team. They're the ones writing the checks.
Yeah, 10-4. And at this point, if we're just saying, right, that it's going to be Pollard tag, and look, and I had people tell me like, well, look at the deal done with Pollard. Insert Schultz. I don't think that's happening, because to me, what I look at is tag with Zeke coming back at 5 at the end of the day means they're going to run it this year, Dalton Schultz-esque, wash the board, and then pay Parsons. If they draft a guy, say 2nd round, I think that means Davis is out of the building. That's your 3. They're not going to carry 4 running backs. So if they draft a guy high, then Davis is gone, and then these are the 3, and then they'll say, hey, look, we got the young guy we drafted. These 2 guys are gone. We'll add another guy, and they move on. So, again, it's fluid. The situation is fluid. And Jerry Jones is out here selling some snake oil here and there. Again, I don't really like the conversation when it comes to Dak and what's going on contract-wise, because of what I said before. The idea that Steven and Jerry want to lean on this paying the quarterback salary cap, not ultimate money, salary cap-wise, and you can't win, is foolish. The Rams did it 2 years ago. They paid over it was 43 or 45 million to Goff and Stafford and won the Super Bowl. And in the means of that, they traded for Von Miller and they signed Odell Beckham within the constraints of what they did, paying over 40 million for the quarterback. So it's foolish talk here. Go ahead, Don.
And paying a defensive tackle
that part
almost like a quarterback.
Right.
And then the next year they paid Bobby Wagner.
Right. So yeah, like all that's out of the gate. But whatever. So those things again. He's not a beer and nacho guys like Romo was, so they can choose to go down this realm. Drop that question again though. Let's get to your question that you just had, and I'll let Dom answer that first and reset the. I just wanted to get to that part first before we got to that though. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Well, quick refresher for people. We are currently on March 3rd, which is crazy that we're already there. The franchise tag deadline, you have to designate your franchise tag to a player, is March 7th. So we're coming up on that really quickly, right? Like after tonight, you're down to just a small handful of days left. Jerry was asked, he showed up late. He had flight delays or something like that. So he showed up at the combine late today and did talk to the media. And one of the questions he was asked, I think it was Michael Gelkin who asked him, or maybe John Machota, but either way, they asked him if the plan is to franchise tag Tony Pollard, because that's what Stephen Jones has made abundantly clear that they want him here and they'll do that if they have to. Jerry being Jerry, and obviously take it with a grain of salt, but he made an interesting comment, and I wanted to just toss it out there to you guys. He said, now, I would never commit to that because there may be another guy that I'd like to sign that I'm using that I'm threatening to put the franchise tag on.
Right.
So the question is, who is that out of the guys that are available? And do you think that that's just Jerry talk, or do you think that there really is another player that they would like to sign ASAP, because we would have to if we're threatening them with the franchise tag? So tossing it out to you guys. Dom, Nix, what do you guys think?
You want to go first, Dom?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It would have to be Dalton Schultz once again. And the reason I say that is because they did it last year thinking that he was a major piece to be able to help Dak feel more comfortable. But it was also a piece that they needed to keep in their mind's eye because they just let Amari Cooper go. So they probably felt Lamb, stepping into that wide receiver one position, taking that over, solidifying himself as the big dog, and then having that security blanket and a guy who can work the seams, work the middle for him, and Schultz knowing that they have that connection. And they weren't quite sure about the young tight ends at that time. Now, we look at it on this side, and we know that the two young tight ends are pretty good and that they could probably ascend, and maybe Schultz is a progress stopper in some sense, especially at a $13 million cap hit if it comes to a franchise tag. But it would not surprise me one bit if this team felt Dalton Schultz is a guy that they need to keep because of how poor the wide receiver room is. So give him another guy that they feel as if he is a true receiving weapon for Dak. Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, LVE for his number is out. It's not LVE. It's like 20 some odd million.
20.9.
Yeah. It's not him. I think it's Donovan Wilson. Honestly, I think it's a guy that's drafted. I think you go and look at the season he had, and we kind of talk about some different play with the curse injuries, right? And I was there the Texas game, and I watched him get basically carried off by two guys. I was on the sideline, watched him get carried off by two trainers, and magically came back and played. But he had up and downs. Malik Hooker, honestly, if we're just keeping it a buck, he didn't have a great season. Now, I'm not saying that Wilson is a ultimate free safety guy, but I think the safety room, what you felt like going into last offseason with these guys getting deals done versus right now, I think it's very indifferent. And Donovan Wilson stayed relatively healthy, and he really popped a lot this year. So to me, Dom, I'm going to disagree a little bit. I'm going to push back on that because I think they believe in Ferg because of the draft size, 4th round, just like Schultz. Hendershot had moments, and I think they can draft a guy, and I think they feel that way. I think this is more about if we're buying, right? We're buying the snake oil here from Jerry and what he's talking about, because ultimately we all do agree we'd rather have a deal done with Pollard than not the tag, right? So, and this goes back to Steven who said we're going to use the tag regardless of Pollard or not, and want to get the Pollard deal done. To me, I think it's Donovan Wilson. I think the tag lands there. I'm not saying they should use the tag because I don't think the Cowboys should use the franchise tag at all. I think it is very poor team building to consistently lean on that crutch of the franchise tag, right? But I think if it's a guy that's not Pollard, I think it's Donovan Wilson. Oh, that would be my answer.
I think he's a good guess too, because if you're looking at what Dalton Schultz' second franchise tag, because obviously you take what you had last year and then you add 20% on top of it. So Dalton Schultz will be 13.9, I think is where it comes out to. And Donovan Wilson, if you applied it as a safety for the first time tag, would be 14.46 million. So you're looking at give or take about the same amount of money. And then it becomes a situation where you're saying on the defensive side of the ball, we know what we have, we know what our scheme is, we're good. On the offensive side, we are making some scheme changes, and even if it's 20 or 30%, there's going to be a difference in what we ask our tight ends to do. There's going to be a difference in what we ask the wide receivers and running backs to do and the offensive line, because we have a new offensive line coach. So the offense, if anything, is the side of the ball that you have more questions than you have answers. Not to say that they can't easily be answered, but there are more questions certainly than what you would have on the defensive side of the ball. So if I'm threatening anybody aside from Tony Pollard using this franchise tag as leverage, to me, Donovan Wilson makes complete sense because Jaron Kearse, 1 year left on his deal. Malik Hooker, 1 year left on his deal. Right. Izzy Mukwamu, we all were excited about him, but we saw him in 2 games in the preseason. Bell from last year, we're all excited about him, but we barely saw him at all. And when it was special teams. So he's the guy that you can play all over the place. He's the guy that you can line up at free safety. He did some of that early in his career. He's the guy that can play strong safety. He can play over the nickel. He's a good pass rusher. So you can use him all over the place. So in my mind, if you're threatening somebody, he's the guy that probably makes the most sense. But I don't know. And again, it's Jerry. So that may just be something being tossed out there anyways. But and just for that one, guard would be – so guard, center, and tackle all combined together. They just have it as an offensive line tag. So it'd be $18.2 million. So obviously that's not something you're going to give McGovern.
Yeah, McGovern's gone. And a lot of McGovern talk being gone is simply what Stephen Jones said. Tyron Smith's going to be back. So they can set their line now. It's Tyron, Tyler, center, and Biotish across the line. Steele's going to be back. That's what they're believing on paper, Dom. That's what they're believing on paper. That's the line. We don't have to draft nobody. We ain't got to bring McGovern back. But that's a different conversation. We'll get to that when we get to the top 10 O-line. So we'll get to that later. Let's wrap up here real quick. Again, I didn't want to spend too much time here as we're about 30 minutes in. But Jerry threw the old monkey wrench in here as the star turns for us to get into it. For what you heard here and what happened, a final word from everybody here with Jerry and the talk, and then we're going to pivot into this combine talk. We'll get to our top 10 and everything else to get to this draft talk. I'm going to go counterclockwise here. Dom, final word here from Jerry. Finally getting this opportunity to get out here and say some things. What you think, man? What's your takeaway?
You know, it is kind of typical Jerry. It's kind of that, excuse me for the language, but attention whore type of stuff out of our boy. But yet still, even with that, you still got to try to read between the lines and then pick apart where the Joneses often kind of reveal their hand. So it would not surprise any of us, I don't think, on this panel, where they would actually use the franchise tag, even though we would be people that would advise against that. But I truly do like the comments about running the ball more effectively. And the Tony Pollard tag, if they can't get that deal done, then to me, in a sense, it kind of shoots holes in running back in the first round. It might force Zeke to actually either take that pay cut or be released. So some people out there might be excited about that if you're one of those fans that just simply do not want to see Zeke Elliott on this team because you don't think the production, even at a reduced salary, makes much sense. And so I think it overall kind of makes us shift back into free agency mode and what may be out there, even though we're smack dab in the middle of the combine where we're thinking more about the draft. And so it brings back into the fold of, you know, there are so many things that can happen in free agency where we can help understand more and more about what they may do in the first round of the draft. So run the ball effectively. Give me some of that.
10-4. Jerry coming out here with the flight delay and everything else, you know, where do you land here on his comments and your takeaway from what he had to say?
I mean, we have to be honest with ourselves. We kind of know what the organization's MO is at this point, but at the same time, this is also negotiation season. Although we're all in draft mode, they do have a franchise tag deadline coming up soon, as we just talked about. And you have a lot of players that you're going to have to sort out and decide because March 15th, that comes around the corner really soon.
Days away.
So we're going to have to talk about players like Connor McGovern. You know, obviously he's not a tag candidate, but is he a guy that you want to bring back? And if so, what amount and what other guys could you replace him with and so on. So when you talk about, yeah, we'd love to have Zeke back. Well, Pollard's a free agent. So maybe you're using that as a little bit of leverage saying we don't have to sign you. We're cool having Zeke, Davis, and drafting somebody. but we'd like you back. Like maybe there's a little wrinkle element to that, or same thing with, leaking out there that there's conversations that aren't going well negotiation wise because you're kind of showing your hand. And same thing with meetings too. Some of the guys that we're going to talk about in a little bit of players and how many of them they met at certain positions, maybe something that they use in contract negotiations too. So it's cap season, literally, in every single phrase you want to use it for. All the smoke. It is. Yes, smoke and mirror season. So don't believe everything. Take it with a grain of salt, but also use your brain because we kind of know how things go in Cowboys Nation.
Yeah, I just think in general, it just signifies everything wrong with this team. For lack of a better terminology for me, it's just honestly, no team operates this way. It's maddening. It's frustrating. I'm watching, your owner now, and we've seen it from, your de facto GM and Steven and what's going on and how they take their quarterback. I don't care what you think about that guy said earlier, and nobody does this with look, even with Derek Carr, they're trading him. You never heard this rhetoric from the Raiders about Derek Carr until the season was over and they're trading him. And it's just really weird, man. It's just really odd. And, going back to Stephen Jones and what he said is, well, you don't win a championship in free agency or off season. That's what he said. That was his line. And I don't disagree with him. You don't win one year. You don't. You know what you do? You lose one here, though. You absolutely lose one.
Can you say that one again?
This time of year. Do what?
Can you say that last statement one more time, just in case?
Sure. What Steven said last offseason was, nobody wins a championship this time of the year, right? Off season. And that's fair. I don't disagree. You don't win one right now, but you absolutely unequivocally can lose a championship this time of the year. And the Cowboys ultimately, time and time again, have shown the propensity to lose a championship this time of the year because Romo, Dak, mirroring each other. What's their playoff record, guys? Where are they at? They're identical.
Yep.
They're identical. What's the only constant? Not the coaches, not the players, not the quarterbacks. Oh, you got something on the soundboard? You go ahead and drop it.
I don't. No, you're just talking. I'm just listening and soaking it in.
Yeah. That's fair. There's only one constant over the past basically 10 plus years. It's basically Steven running things and Jerry kind of sitting back. And you're getting the same results. I don't care. Pick the coach. Garrett, Linehan, Kellen. Now we're on to. I think we've seen some differences here with Dak and McCarthy the last 2 years. But ultimately, the results are the same. Ultimately, they're the same. So, no, you don't win championships right now. On March 3rd, as we're sitting here, you don't win a championship right now. But you absolutely, unequivocally lose championships right now. And the rhetoric that happened today was very much so in that lane of bad team building, showing you still have bad team building qualities, and you're willing to say it on an open mic. And again, going all the way back for those that follow me a long time, during the Dak first tag and everything, I said it then. All positions on the NFL team are not built the same. You can hardball players. Absolutely. There's players you can play hardball with. You can do that. It's fair. Not every position is built different. Is built the same. That's any sport. The one position that is without repercussion of talking to in a certain type of way is the quarterback. Because everybody looks how you handle the face of the franchise. And no matter what we want to talk about, the face of your franchise is your quarterback. And how you consistently handle that guy, the rest of that locker room and everything else is going to look and move accordingly. And you see how they used him. Look, and I questioned this in the space. I said, whenever Romo was here, did you hear this rhetoric from them? Now, social media things are different now. I understand that. Times have changed. However, what we heard when Romo got signed was, well, you know what? Now he's going to be Peyton Manning and spend that time in the old film room. That's what you heard. And he got doubled up again. We ain't got that same energy when it comes to that. Now, mind you, just a couple of weeks ago, right? Jerry was there to talk about Dak, and we got to do better around him. Fast forward, a flight gets delayed, maybe a little Johnny Walker Blue label. I don't know what we can do, guys. We got to pay all. Yeah, he's making so much money, and again, it just shows the very ineptitude of this front office to build a winning organization around what they have in the building, and that's the frustrating thing for Cowboys Nation. That's very sad at the end of the day. And again, right. I don't take everything at full tilt with Jerry because there's a lot of stake oil and whatever, but the way and the constitute that what we work in now and how these players work, social media and everything else, man, you got a wide receiver up there in Baltimore tweeted some stuff about the G and had to delete it, and but screenshots are forever. Like things are just so much different now. And the one thing that I've talked about extensively is Lamb talking about adding people, right? Diggs, Cowboys Nation, add people. Parsons, this organization has never had to deal with these guys that are this active, as I call it, the LeBron James effect, and using your platform to do things, to make things happen. They haven't dealt with this. It's a dangerous game that they're playing. Tongue-in-cheek, snake all be damned. The 80-year-old owner out here talking. Just didn't like it in general, but, here we are. Again, we're making the table too long, almost 40 minutes in with a lot of our show to get to, but I'll mute now.
To wrap that up, really, just consider, and this can be homework for everybody, go and look at teams that have won the Super Bowl, made it to the Super Bowl, made it into the Final Four, as I would call it, to the conference championship games. Go see those teams and tell us what the model that the Cowboys are using for free agency, their model. Has anybody made it to the Final Four? I know people probably would want to go to New England. That's not so.
Right.
Plus, you had the ultimate cheat code in Tom Brady and the greatest coach of our generation and possibly greatest coach of all time, Bill Belichick. So can't go there. So I'm struggling to find anybody that's bottom of the barrel fishing, trying to squeeze what little bit you can out of older free agents that, are well over, past, beyond their prime. I just don't see people really successful following our model. So I don't know even if anybody's following the Dallas model. So when you ask that question of, what do we feel right now, man?
Yeah, it's real in the field. It's real in the field, Dom.
I'm ready to get back to draft talk.
Yeah. Great. Look, what a great pivot. 40 minutes here. Jerry got us going for 40. And as you said earlier, it gets the people going. And here we are for 40 minutes. But let's pivot here. I'll tell you what. Where do you want to start? Let me ask you. You want to start with the quote unquote big move talk, or do we want to just take the big move out of the equation now and just get to this damn combine? Where do you want to be at now?
So we can do big move because I think it's going to be super quick.
Sure. We
are not trading for a big name player.
I disagree.
We're not, in my opinion. Whatever name you want to throw out there, we're not trading for him. So the big move is a veteran free agent.
Yeah.
Jerry said as much like an hour ago. And all the insiders who, yes, you get clicks and you get views and all that by talking about the Jalen Ramseys and the DeAndre Hopkins and, Stephon Diggs and reuniting the brothers and all that stuff. But we love our draft picks. Fair. There's a precedence, obviously, we did with Amari Cooper, but we had to. That time of year when we made that move, we had to do that. We don't have to do that right now because there will be obviously a period during the regular season where you can make trades up into the trade deadline, and we still have free agency and we still have the draft and all that stuff. So we don't have to make a move right now. So I don't think we're making a big move. And if we are, it's like OBJ, which maybe you'll be excited about, maybe not, but that's a big move to this team, in my opinion. So that's all I have to say on it.
All right. Dom, you want to talk big move real quick before I go, or?
Yeah, in order for this thing to be a big move, they're not at the point where you can truly go out and start negotiating with guys who are about to become free agents. They can't do any of that yet. So if it's a big move, there's no way that this is the time where it's about to happen. Hey, baby, Chuck the deuces. Oh, now she's shy. But it has to come via either trade or somebody that's a current free agent right now. So to me, the big move that would excite me the most would be Ramsey. I just don't see that quite happening. But if you can give me Levante David or what's the linebacker from who just got released?
Bobby Wagner.
LAR, was a Seahawk, had the relationship with Dan Quinn. Bobby Wagner makes so much sense, especially with some of this late news that we received about Dallas really not trying hard to negotiate with Leighton Vander Esch and looking like he's about to hit the free agency market. So Bobby Wagner being a step up from what we have in the middle right now, that's a big fish signing that I would get excited about. And to me, that represents a true big time splash in free agency. And I will feel good about that moving into a draft where we know the linebacker spot is pretty weak. Now, you still would want to go out and get somebody else to couple and bring along with a Bobby Wagner because of our linebacking depth is pretty weak right now. I'm not a Jabril Cox guy. I'm not putting my eggs in that basket, nor am I, counting him out. But from a team building aspect, I'm also not counting on him to be able to step it up being here for the last 3 years. Instead, I'm going out for a big fish like Bobby Wagner. I'm looking at Clark. What do you have? And I'm still drafting at some point during day 2 or day 3.
Yeah, it's funny to me because we talked about this in the space real quick. Dom, and I brought this up, and I'm just going through now and just kind of catching up on some of the things that Jerry said. And the one thing that I said was, everybody talks about Tom Brady and how he saves money and what he did. I said, but you go back to 2010, he was the highest paid NFL player in NFL history. And this is where Jerry Jones is very smart. This is where he's smart. Right? He actually, I didn't know he said this until just now as I was going through because I want to bring up the big move. And he actually talks about Tom Brady late in his career and doing things and equated that to Dak Prescott. I don't think that's lost on the fact of how they were paid and then what they did, which goes back to something we've talked a long term onto the spaces and what we've talked about of what this contract extension looks for Dak and about legacy and different things and what's going on when it comes to that. But interesting on that point. But when it comes to the big move, and look again, I'm peering over the hedges. I'm not saying this is happening. I'm not. But to me, Odell's not a big move. And the reason why I say Odell's not a big move is simply this. Steven already said they're going to circle the block on Odell. Pause. Tonight. Jerry said he wants to sign him just as much as he wanted to sign him last year. And even talked about his family and all that good stuff, greasing the lanes. No, Ron. Dak's extension isn't their big move because it's already out there. A big move's not that. The big move to me in general, it is Jalen Ramsey. And I've been on record, this is my 3rd time now. And I said this on Wednesday, and then some reports came out today and talks about it. Here's the thing about it, and I'll lay the land here when it talks about a big move. The last time the Cowboys made a big move free agency-wise that got them over hump to a Super Bowl was Deion Sanders. Simply. It was Deion. And with that being said, at that particular time, Stephen Jones accosted his father. And put him up against the wall, the whole 9. It was physical, blah, blah, blah. They signed the deal. This one Super Bowl. It is what it is. And now move forward. Because in a certain setting, I don't know if Jalen cost you a 1st-round pick. He might cost you a 2nd. But that's neither here nor there. We'll take that off the table. We say, $17 million this year, right? Then $13 million, blah, blah, blah. The one thing that happens here and what we know about Dan Quinn is he believes that Bland's a slot corner. And we watched that after the boss man fat Kelvin Joseph experience outside that they went and signed everybody they wanted to. Ended up with who's the guy? Rhodes outside with Bland inside. They want Bland to be inside. And here's why it works. At $17 million, depending on what you do, and they can get this thing done, you can still pay Diggs. But the rookie deal of Bland allows you to pay those two guys. And then you can go the next year and work on the 20-year-old Ramsey and do a different deal to extend the thing out. Even if it's $13 million, you want to do something. But the state taxes and everything else plays in that, not getting taxed out there in Cali. They can do it. To me, when I hear big deal and things are happening, not saying it's happening, but the biggest deal that's available, whoever's available now, free agency, whoever's available trade, D-Hop, all that, is Jalen Ramsey. Now, we can discuss what a big deal means to Stephen Jones, and sure, you can land on Odell or D-Hop, or maybe even Brandon Cooks. But to me, it's Jalen Ramsey is the big deal. And it is feasible if they want to play ball. Now, you might not feel that way. Maybe I don't feel that way right now. Right. After Jerry, what he talks about on the delay of the flight. But again, you can do it, and I don't think it wrecks your draft. No. It's not a situation where you're trading multiple picks here for him. Just like D-Hop. Right. D-Hop, they say second and another. I think you get D-Hop for a third, and you're done, and you're out. I think you get Jalen Ramsey at 20 and what they're doing over there for a second. Who says 58 for Jalen Ramsey and figured on your other end you don't do it?
Right.
I just feel like it's going to cost more than that. Like if you look at, there was a really good article that came out earlier this week, and they looked at different cornerbacks that were traded based on the age and what the draft comp was in return. And I think the player that was closest in age in the haul that they got in return was Revis, when Revis was traded to, I think it was Tampa at the time. I can't remember if it was Tampa and then New England or New England and Tampa. Pretty sure it's Tampa. But he got a 1, a 4, and a future 5 or something like that. So I don't think they'll get that much in return, but I definitely think the Rams will keep him if it's not at least a 1 plus something. And that's just my opinion.
I don't think they can, though. I think that's what's the difference here with Ramsey and what they're going through right now as an organization. I think they're in the position where they have to move him. Here's the thing. Maybe it costs you 26. If I'm getting a 20-year-old Ramsey for 3+ years for a 26, what are we talking about?
I don't think I would do that.
You're crazy. Why?
I'm looking at it too. I'm looking at this is one of the deepest cornerback classes in a long time, and there very likely will be a really good cornerback available at 26. And I'm looking at a cornerback at $4 million a year, whatever. And we know because there's reports out there, Ramsey wants a new deal. So wherever you trade for, you're getting Ramsey, and obviously the first year may not be as big of a hit, but you're a 28-year-old cornerback. He's not 34 or anything like that, but he's at the age, and he has shown some decline in his game the last year and a half, roughly. And you could say maybe that's the scheme or the people around him or whatever. But I have concerns there. When I already see somebody showing some signs of decline, I don't want to trade premium draft picks and pay them more money. And when we look at like the Amari Cooper trade, he was on a rookie deal. So they had it, and that's where like the conversation may shift to like a Jerry Jeudy or one of those guys that we talked about last year, where you would have some team control with them being cheap before you have to invest big money. So I don't know.
Which is the same argument you use to apply and why you may not have to use the 26 and why they would need to get rid of him and the whole locker room situation, the kind
of Jets though. The Jets had Revis, like exact same situation where he was already being paid.
That's a different time and era.
It's slightly different.
Where the Jets were and where the Rams are completely different right now. Like you can't apply apples to apples here, in my opinion. Where Revis is and what was going on and all these different things are happening, where the Rams are currently is not where they were when Revis was moving. It's just not. Now, I'm not saying you can ultimately go out here and fleece him for 58. I'm not saying that. I'm saying there's a propensity here that you don't have to give up a first and a lot extra. On the other side is, okay, we can play the game. Look, the Cowboys played this game. They draft people. We're relying on young guys, and we're going to get over the hump. We've done it for a decade. At a certain point, I want to push it in. He's 28, and I put him on the other side of Diggs, and I got Bland in the middle, and then I can go play ball with the rest of my draft picks. I'll take those chances because we haven't done it that way. Like, if we're going to keep doing the same thing over and over again, cool. We don't get rid of the capital. We're going to sit here. We're going to do these things. Okay, cool. We'll be back here next year. We'll be talking about it again. We'll be snake on it again. But if you're going to make a big move and make a splash, I would pull the trigger. I would give up personally 26 and nothing else. I'll give you 58 and a fourth. But I'll do 26 and nothing else for him. Because, okay, insert got Forbes, Ringo. Does Porter make it there? Like, we've been here and done these things. We have to change the wheel a little bit, is where I would be at.
See, like, comments like that.
Now, see,
I just don't know how you can say that.
I'm not going that far. I'm not going that far. Oh,
maybe there's 3 guys like that, or maybe there's none. Like, we just don't know. But
we don't know, right?
What I will say is, if it's 58 and something, or even a 3rd round pick, because we talk about that and kind of joke about it in the back channels and even publicly, our 2nd round picks haven't been phenomenal. Obviously, we have Diggs, like he was a big hit, and we've gotten guys like Sean Lee and Tank. So we have won some, but we also have the Tristan Hills and the Kelvin Josephs and the Neville Gallimores and the Nashawn Wrights and guys like Jalen Tolbert's too early. But we haven't had a lot of recent 2nd and 3rd round hits that I'm like, I would rather have that player versus Ramsey. But you're looking at Ramsey plus a new deal, and that's where it just, it feels different to me. So maybe so. Out of the names mentioned, like Hopkins and Ramsey feel like the only 2 that I see that I'm like, logistically, maybe. Right? Because like Diggs, we all talk about the cap hit. It's a $37 million dead money cap hit for the Bills. Like, there's no way they do that. They lose negative 17 million. So you don't have Diggs. You have 17 million less in cap space than you had with Diggs. Like, why would that make any sense at all? No matter how much he wants to play with his brother or whatever, there's no way you do that as a team. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. And again, all the conversation we're having is based on what we think is a big move. And we also acknowledge that it may not be what they're thinking.
Facts.
And maybe the names we're talking about aren't at all what they have in mind. Like maybe a big move to Dallas is going from Money Maher to Robbie Gold. Like that would be a significant difference. But I don't think that's a big move that people are excited about.
Don't you do that to me. Don't you dare play on my hashtag special season matter heartstrings.
I'm just saying. I'm just bringing it full circle, right? That's a big move with a big impact without spinning a lot of pie. So
yeah, but no, I mean, ultimately though, when I say big move and when I think about it, just me personally, like I said, Jalen Ramsey, I think it happens. I think it can happen if they want to make it, and again, bruh, I mean, at a certain point, I don't want to keep banging my head against the wall the same way. I don't care about the money. Like, pay whoever, do whatever, like whatever. Go find a way to get over the hump. Right. And if that's the way and that's the realm, then so be it. Is it 26? Is it 58 and 58 and 90? Whatever. Do something different. I mean, hey, you want to trade your 2nd and your 3rd and you end up with Ramsey and D-Hop and you really go all in? Okay. You want to trade 26 and 90? Whatever. Just do something different, because going out here and signing middling guys, we're going to bring back these 2 running backs for $15 million a year, and we're going to ho-hum and we're going to draft and hope these young guys go. And Jerry did say about the young players, right, and what's going on. Okay, well, I mean, we've been here for a long time since Romo through Dak's career. Here we are. At a certain point, when we talk about a big move, something's happened. But going back to what I ultimately said in the very beginning, the big move and ultimately the ceiling, I always believed, and I'll still stand on this, Mac, delete this. You have time to delete that. You have time to delete that comment. I'm gonna let you delete that. But anyways, I know he is. But I do think the ceiling ultimately is, and look, and even with the indifference we're hearing about LVE and Donovan Wilson right now, was always, it's Odell, D-Hop, Cooks, somebody at wide receiver there. It was Wagner at linebacker. Peters, now Byron Jones is kind of acquiesced a little bit with certain things, although he's not retiring, but it seems he's down bad. Peters at cornerback, and then you roll your dice in the draft. I thought that was kind of the ceiling always, and I don't disagree with that, but if I can just peek over the hedges about a big move, Jalen Ramsey would be that guy.
Can I throw one name that it's been talked about, but very little before we in this topic? So what if there was a veteran free agent who is still under 30, who will cost you a ton of money, make it clear. But I think all of us like this guy in the draft, and he plays a position of need, a position that the Cowboys have shown a lot of interest in a position where LVE, that they're maybe not all in on paying him big money.
Right.
If you're looking at Bobby Wagner, who Dom brought up earlier, and a lot of people talked about Bobby Wagner, let's say cost 10 to 12 million a year, something like that. Would you pay Tremaine Edmonds 18 million a year? Would you pay somebody like that? No? I think I would. I think if I'm going all in, he's 25 years old, and he's just coming off the best season of his career.
I'm getting 4 of his best years. Yes.
Yeah, I think I would. He's the free agent this year, which I don't think he's a Cowboys move. But if you're going all in, like he's the one dude I'm like, cool, because he frees Micah to do whatever we want him to do now. So
like
in my,
can I get 16?
Yeah, 16? Sure, if we can get him at that. But I think you're looking at like 18 million a year, somewhere in that range. It's a lot of money, but if you're paying for someone, like I think that's the guy that I'd be like, I would sign the check on that because we had the conversation about Roquan last year, right?
Right. I would have traded for Roquan last year.
Exactly. But no draft picks this time.
Right. I'm with you. I would pull the trigger. Yes.
So Dom, you said no.
Dom's like, all right, Dom, come on.
All right, I'm Stephen Jones pinning y'all against the wall. Like, Jerry, what are you doing?
All right,
oh Lord, this boy! As soon as
you got to pay to play. Come on now.
As soon as you started, I knew it was going to Tremaine. I knew it. You know, I actually did like him coming out of that draft with all the athleticism, the big body. I think he was like 249.
You don't like
and then
him
like
now?
he was running,
runs fast.
You know what?
It's hard, good in coverage, pass rusher. He does everything.
What you need?
But that kind of money,
we would have given up capital. You were with me. You were with me with Roquan.
Yes.
You was with me with Roquan.
I wasn't with you on giving up all that capital for Roquan.
Oh, Dom. See, man, we got to pick a lane here. Hold on. Real quick, right now, Pick Six Sports. We got to pick a lane. Are we Stephen Jones? Are we about to get into an NFC Championship game? What are we doing here?
I'm getting Ramsey. That's what I'm getting.
Okay. Well, he's on my side.
Give me Jalen Ramsey, and I can tell you how we even pay for it. So
come through.
Jalen Ramsey's going to be $17 million next season. The next after that, he's 14.5. The last one, he's 15.5.
But he wants a new deal, though. Those numbers don't matter.
Pause.
I don't care. He don't get his new deal the first year.
Second year. Yes.
So you get it your second year. You got to prove it this year to see if you get that. And then it's a wink, prove it, and you still ain't got to pay him. You could probably send him back in and trade him for something else and recoup a little bit of that capital back. You ain't gonna get what you gave, but you still get it back. So here we go. Jordan Lewis coming off an injury. Deuces. That's $4.7 million. Now I'll need $12.29 million. Neville Gallimore, you were a healthy scratch in the playoffs.
Bye-bye.
You weren't even 4th, 5th best interior defensive lineman that we had. That's another $2.7 million. Deuces. Now I'm looking for $9.5 million. Tyron Smith, you haven't finished a season in the last 7 years. I can let you go, and that's $9.5 million for you. So right there with those 3 players, I can bring in a Jalen Ramsey. And wait, if you still need more money, Zeke Elliott, I'm keeping Pollard. So I still got an offensive weapon. Zeke, deuces, gotta go. But I'm actually designate you as a June 1 cut to pay for my class and anything moving into the season.
Let's cook.
You want some more money?
Let's cook.
Zach Martin. I'm actually going to restructure your deal.
I was like, wait.
Oh, yeah.
It's last time.
I was like, hold on, Dom.
One more time.
No, I'm going to restructure you one more time or see if you actually want a contract extension to kind of work that out, knowing that you probably won't finish that. And so when you get ready to retire in 3-4 years, whatever it may be, we can still work it. But man, I'm opening up another $9 million right there. And then when I extend Dak, that's going to be $20+ million. So you can make this money thing work. The main thing is Jalen Ramsey is worth, if you have to give up a second rounder plus a 4th plus next year's whatever, even at the 26th pick, I would give that up for somebody like him to put on that defense and to make that defense elite and still have the money to get a Bobby Wagner or LVE or whomever you want to be able to help there in the middle of that defense on the second level. And, defensive tackles, you can find defensive tackles. So we're good. We're good.
10-4. All right. And again, this big talk, big move. We're talking about it. We'll see where it lands, if anything lands.
It won't be remotely as big as whoever it is. It won't be remotely as big as all the names we just dropped.
It's okay, but we can allow ourselves, when we hear big moves, to peer over, and we can deliver the context how we can land. And again, I said it Wednesday. Look, I'm not doing the shout out to our guy Spoon. He had some things to do tonight, couldn't be here. And for those who are long-term guys from the Stargang era to now where we're at pick 6, Spoonie used to have this hashtag route situation and always happening. Yeah, I'm not doing the hashtag route situation, but I am going to say, I talked about it Wednesday, Dom. Fast forward to Friday,
right?
It started percolating and some reports came out. Just saying. Hey, I'm just connecting dots. I'm just saying. But with that being said, he might have lost a step. He's still better than anybody else outside of Diggs on this team.
You know who else lost a step? You know who else lost a step?
Oh, who?
Jordan Lewis.
Oh,
the brother.
I mean, DeAndre Hopkins lost a step, and people are I personally would like DeAndre Hopkins, but he's not the same dude that he was 3 years ago too. Like that. That's the reality. Is there's a reason that teams like the Cardinals and Rams have good players and are like, well, what can we get for him?
That part, and hence why I'm saying, and I pounded the table. I don't think you got to send a first for Jalen in the situation they're in. I just don't think. I think give him for 58. And I'm all the way in there. And I do believe when it comes to D-Hop, I think it's a third. I don't think it's going to be a second. I think it's a third. But neither here nor there. That's the big talk, big move. And again, it really decides, as O eloquently said, on the scale of Steven. And maybe you just get Robbie Gold instead of, Greg the Leg. Or our guy, no longer, he went back from Money Maher and then he turned into maybe Maher.
Yeah.
Respect. Special things matter. But probably Odell's the guy, even though I don't think it's a big because it talks about him. But we'll see what happens, man. We'll see what kind of moves they make and what they do. Maybe you can revisit and spin and send 58 to the Falcons for Pitts train ride again. Neither here nor there. I'm just joking. Now let's get to this. Let's get to this combine talk, guys. Can we do that? I know we got to get to our top 10.
Good stuff.
Yeah,
the good stuff.
We're going to talk to. We got our top 10 consensus wide receivers. Where do we want to start here with the combine, though? Oh, I know you got some slides available. Where do we want to start here on this combine talk here with the Cowboys?
Yes. So there's trends. There's things you can notice. Keep in mind, this list that I'm going to show you, some of these are formals, some of those are informals. So for those that don't know the difference between those two, an informal might be a prospect talking to a positional coach, could be a coordinator, could be a regional scout, something like that. Maybe they ask a few questions, really like a meet and greet type of thing, shake some hands, get a chance to pick up on your personality a little bit, but it's short. And some of it may just be planning a future visit. It's quick. You don't have a ton of time versus a formal interview where you have them come meet with you. Some of the teams are doing things like tossing darts, playing basketball, eating dinner together. Some of them are watching film. Some of them are on whiteboards and going down, different concepts and schemes and things like that. So a formal is usually reserved for players you have a lot of interest in. Doesn't mean that they're going to draft them because other teams may have interest in them too. But the Cowboys are showing more interest in you if you have a formal versus informal. And again, a guy with an informal now may get a future visit and have more buzz at that point. But we've been tracking so far, and I want to pull up who they brought in so you guys can kind of take a look at it and see if any of this pops out to you and any of it's interesting. I don't know how well you can see it. Hopefully you can read it okay. But there's some names on this list. I want to ask you guys in the chat, please let me know who you guys see that you're like, oh, cool, the Cowboys met with them. That's exciting. Maybe that's a realistic pick for us at some point in the draft. Dom and Nix, what do you guys see on the board? Like, is there anybody there or any position group that's maybe exceptionally deep compared to what you thought they'd go after? Or maybe a player that you're like, I don't see any chance the Cowboys could get him, or a player where you're like, I'm shocked they're talking to him because of size or speed or whatever. So starting with Nix, what on this list is interesting to you?
I think we look at the players, right? The positions, I should say, right? and kind of what we've talked about in general whenever it comes to positions of needs, different things like that, right? And boy, how about that DB, cornerback room and wide receiver room, huh? How about them? How about them? And also, too, a team that hasn't really valued defensive tackle high, right? You see some names in there too, and kind of giving you an idea of what they're looking at, what they're going through, and who they've talked to. Outside of this, a guy that I happened to mock to the Cowboys quarterback wise is the kid from Louisville, Malik Cunningham, and kind of going back and look at his tape, and I've mocked him here before. I think that's interesting when we talk about a possible of a quarterback coming in here and what's going on. When I look at the wide receiver room, we always talk about a type, right? And you had a great article over there at USA Today and Cowboys Wire and everything else. And we're seeing a lot of these wide receivers, right? The 5-5 gang rides again, if you will. Interviewing some smaller guys than what we typically have looked at before. Pivoting from that, maybe a guy to keep an eye on. I just like going across the land, looking at all the different interviews, things that are happening. I think maybe a guy to keep a look on, and this is from the D-end standpoint. And I'm not big with the names because always keep it on point with the names. But the Kansas State guy, kind of a lunch pail guy, maybe a name to pay attention to. I'm just saying, maybe something down the line, a little bit to pay attention to. Christian Gonzalez, look, he's not going to be there 26, right? Cornerback one in my book. Don't think he's going to be there. I've been pretty big about Kelly Ringo throughout the process. I know people are feeling different about his combine situation and certain things, but we saw the speed and the effort. He's a traits guy. And the one thing we talked about heavily when it comes into the Cowboys and what they do drafting the last couple of years, they look for traits guy and want to coach them up. And I think Ringo has the traits, if you will, that they can buy into and coach up somewhat. I know there's certain things about him that you might not like, but the effort, the speed, different things there, I think things are happening there. So there's definitely interesting names here across the board for me that are interesting. Ultimately, we'll probably come back here after the draft like, the Cowboys took Max Duggan, big surprise. It's probably what's going to happen. Tyler Scott, and Don, we talked about this in the space before. They brought him in. They had the interview with him from Cincinnati. Interesting as well. But yeah, just a lot of different guys up and down. I mocked Rajon Wright, and I talked about this before. Let me end on this. Shout out to Mama Wright, who comes to the spaces. I've had a great opportunity to talk to her. During the season, we were rocking and going back and forth. She told me that she had spoken with DQ about him. He's said things about Rajon, and they've had some scouts out there at Oregon State as well. So I'm not surprised that they met with Rajon.
So real quick before you go, Dom, I just want to point out because some people mentioned different positions. Our guy Steven, shout out to him, said Darnell Washington, and then Dom said no Darnell. Keep in mind, they are interviewing these players when these position groups are coming in. So
every day was a different position group that could.
Yeah, so that's why you've seen the first day was defensive linemen and linebackers. And then you had defensive backs. And then today was quarterback, wide receiver, tight end. So that's why when you're looking at this list, you're like, there's only one offensive lineman at all. Well, Osiris Torrance, obviously somebody they're interested in. They've already pre-scheduled their meeting with him, which means it's most likely a formal. But the offensive line hasn't reported yet. They will actually be there for interviews moving forward. So you'll start seeing this list kind of change. Now, Darnell Washington was not somebody they met with formally or informally. Does not mean they won't interview him later on and maybe bring him in for a visit. But no, Darnell Washington was not. But if you see other positions that maybe you're a little bit surprised we don't have more people at, that's why. Okay, Dom, so on this list for you, who stands out? Who are you interested in? Anything that surprises you?
Yeah, one of the things that jumps out about this list to me is the receivers, and specifically the fact that they're bringing in receivers and talking to those that don't really meet the threshold as far as the size is. And you laid it out perfectly before of, the types that McCarthy really likes, a guy that's around that 6 feet 1 inch, maybe 190 pounds or 200, I think 204 pounds. So the fact that both Cincinnati guys are there, Tyler Scott and Trey Tucker, we know that they're explosive, they're speedsters.
Right.
Yeah, that's nice. But for them to be as small as they are, under 6 feet, Tyler Scott might be 5'11", but still, it's under 6 feet. And Tank Dell being there, Zay Flowers, these are all guys that we've talked about loving as potential second-round picks. Trey Tucker probably be more of a late third, fourth rounder. But to see the smaller guy there, and also looking at defensive tackle, for them to like a guy like Dante Stills, the Still brothers have seemed like they've been at West Virginia for 14 years. But I know he's a 23-year-old kid. He's had 35 pressures the last 2 seasons, almost 15 sacks, but he's only 285 pounds on the interior. And that just doesn't seem like it fit the Cowboys prototype when it comes to a interior defensive tackle. So I'm quite surprised that they would put him there. Though he's small, he's a pretty good run defender, and he's still a guy who can get some pressure for you. So that's a unique one there. I think he's a late day 3 type guy where you can definitely take a chance on that and just see what he's all about. So it's more of the smaller guys that made this list that kind of surprised me and stand out the most.
10-4.
So
what about you?
Looking at the list, I'm not going to go through every position, but 4 defensive ends, 4 defensive tackles. What was that? 5 linebackers, 14 cornerback safeties.
Yeah.
14. And then you look at wide receiver. I'm not going to count that, but you can see it's heavy in wide receiver. So the 2 positions we all, as fan base, the media, and everybody's talking about is the Cowboys cornerback and wide receiver. Big issues. They need help there. I think the Cowboys are aware of that. I mean, look at how heavy they are at those positions. Quarterback is interesting, and I'm not going to go through the names because we have plenty of time to do that in the next month and a half, or really the next 2 months. But the talk of the Cowboys wanting to bring a developmental quarterback in the draft definitely feels real. Because again, edge rusher, premium position for every team. We had 4. Quarterback, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 quarterbacks. And Jaron Hall was a formal interview. And keep in mind, we talked about the difference in formal and informal. You have a limited number of formals you can do. And they used one on Jaron Hall. He's a late round guy. Like he's probably like a round 5-6 type of quarterback. But that's interesting. And then Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Max Duggan, some of those guys, interesting. Tight end, I think, was probably the biggest surprise to me. I knew they were going to talk to tight ends because NFL teams have certain positions you bring in, interview and draft every so often. But with the 2 tight ends we have, and then Dalton Schultz is probably a foregone conclusion he's gone, but there's still a possibility. I think it's interesting that they had that many tight ends in. And some of those tight ends were pretty early type of guys. Like Dalton Kincaid, that's like if you want him, he's a 26 overall. He's not going to be there any other pick in the draft. So I thought tight end was a little bit interesting. And those are some of the things that stood out to me.
I think Luke's the guy here. They've taken the guy out of Michigan before. And I think what Luke brings to the game and what you have here, if, and I think we kind of are assuming, right, that Dalton Schultz is gone. Luke screams draft pick for the Cowboys for me.
And for those that remember, we signed 2 tight ends from Michigan as undrafted free agents.
Right.
Sean McEwen, who's still here, and the other was, I think, Nick Eubanks. I'm pretty sure his first name was Nick. But we had 2 tight ends from Michigan not that long ago. So he fits in. Obviously, teams don't draft players just saying, oh, we hit there before, so we're going to double dip there. But there's a precedence that we maybe trust their coaching staff or have some connections there. Or maybe we just kind of like the type of player that they target as well. But Luke definitely makes sense. But I did think tight end was interesting. So, again, I'm not saying 26, that's Dalton Kincaid. But the rest of the guys are, round 3, 4, 5, 6 type of guys. But I thought that was interesting. They went that deep at quarterback and tight end.
Yeah, I do think also, too, the running back, the 2 they brought in, I think screamed to me doing the process here and going through these guys. Israel from Pittsburgh, I've been pretty big on here the past 2-3 weeks. Looking at his tape and what he brings to the table, and a guy that I think you can get probably in the 4th round, I think screams volume or value. And then obviously Devon here from A&M, we know what he brings from the speed aspect and stuff like that, and injecting it. Now, I don't know if you can get him anything outside of 58, though. We'll have to wait and see. But I thought it was interesting the 2 different running backs they brought in as well, too. Just kind of touch on that.
In that profile, right? They're both speed backs. Like that's what both of them do. Not that that's all they can do, but that's their hallmark. They're burners. They're both going to run really well. So yeah, good point out there.
Yeah. All right. What's the next slide we got up here?
So next is fun. So we wanted to do our consensus board. So what we did was we said we're going to make our own big board here at Pick Six Sports. So I'm interested to see what you guys have in the chat. Like, where did we go wrong? Who would you add? Who are we too high, too low on, etc. But I have things I like. And Will McClay mentioned this earlier. Everybody has biases. Maybe you like a certain type of player because you played that way, or you idolized a player like that growing up. Like maybe Randy Moss is your favorite player. So guys that are 6'4" and can run, like Quinn Johnson, are right up your alley. Or maybe you were that smaller, Rudy type of player and you root for the underdog. Like everybody has biases that they look for. So rather than me have a big board and Nick's have his own big board and Dom and Spoonie and shout out to Mendoza or Modic Extraordinaire, we're like, let's combine them, because that way it's not just what I saw on tape, it's what 5 different people saw on tape and what they think, and let's average it out. So this week we were like, let's start with wide receiver. Obviously, as you see on that list, wide receiver is a big need for the Cowboys. They're heavily interested in it. So let's each rank our top 10 wide receivers. So I'm going to pull that one up first so you guys can see it.
Boom.
So at the bottom, it's kind of cut off, but we're going to go over that in the next slide. So what I did was, starting at the top, that's number 1, and then the guy at the bottom of the list is number 10. So I'm going to leave it over there for a second so you guys can take a look at it. And what I want to do is, I'm going to talk briefly. I'm not going to go every single player on my list, but just highlight a few guys and why I have them where I have them. And I'd like you guys to do the same so people can look at who we have. Then we're going to average these guys out based on how we have them ranked to come up with our actual group big board. And Dom and Nix have not seen this yet, so it'll be their first time seeing it live with you guys next on the next slide.
Wait. Because that's not my number 1.
That's what you have on the list.
No.
Yes.
Look it up. Zay Flowers number 1.
Hold on one second.
Oh, it should have been Zay. You're good. Go ahead.
Say all right.
Less.
Okay.
Say less. I had Zay.
So this may be updated. Maybe it's been updated since then. But this is what we're working at right now.
No, we're good. No, you're good. I'm sorry. That's my only flip. I had Zay number 1. You're good. Go right ahead. I'm sorry. Let me shut up.
Actually, it's okay because of how the group consensus comes out. Even if you flip them, it would not have changed things. So we're actually good. Yeah. Like in terms of how they all average out. But starting with you, Dom, anybody in this list that maybe you feel like hasn't gotten enough shine, or somebody you want to fight for that isn't getting enough love? And why is Jordan Addison your number 1? Those are the 2 questions I have. Like, who's your guy in this list that you're like, this guy's way too low, you need to watch tape on him, or I think he's better as a pro prospect than maybe he was in college? And then why is Addison your number 1?
You know what? I'm actually just jump to why Jordan Addison was my number 1. And you kind of set it on the tee for me, because I grew up a Colts fan and a Cowboys fan. I think I was just, confused about the colors. Just a 4-year-old, 5-year-old kid liking both teams. But one of my favorite players growing up was Marvin Harrison Sr. And whenever he came out of Syracuse, he was 5'11", weighed 181. He had some wheels. He was very efficient in his route running, a slight build guy. He knew how to get himself down, didn't take too many big hits, but he was the perfect kind of receiver for a quarterback like Peyton Manning. And then when they brought in Reggie Wayne, knowing what Wayne could bring to that team with his ability and being a sure-handed catcher, a guy who was pretty good after the catch, he kind of reminds me not so much body-wise and play style as a CeeDee Lamb, but what at least Lamb brings to the Cowboys. So I'm trying to think of who can I bring alongside of Lamb? Who out there in this draft is actually worth the 26th pick? I like the top 4 guys on my list: Jordan Addison, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Quentin Johnston, and Zay Flowers. They're all worthy of that 26 pick. But overall, when I piece it together, knowing what I see out of these guys, I like what Jordan Addison is able to do as far as getting himself open, being able to separate, being able to pick up some big chunk yards, doing well in the intermediate routes, and being used all over the field. He can play inside and outside. So that's why I put Jordan Addison as my wide receiver 1 for the moment, because, guys, this thing is definitely subject to change, and it's definitely going to change, because there's already a receiver that I've been talking about all week in the back channels, and I'm looking at the list and I'm going, I definitely need to move that guy up. Now, a guy that I don't think people are really talking quite enough about that made my top 10 list is Tyler Scott. I like his explosiveness. I like his overall speed that he could bring to this team, the ability to make a little subtle move and boom, he's open. And he is on top of the defensive backs quick and in a hurry. I want to see him improve as far as really extending his hands out to be able to catch the ball away from his frame. There's little nuances there where, you don't want to let it get too, he's not a body catcher per se, but extend those hands out where you can go ahead and snatch it, use your body to adjust to kind of block out the defender. And once he starts to do little things like that, where he'll be able to get both feet down as well in the league, because, in college, it's just the 1 foot rule. But for him, I like his overall abilities, the traits, the tools that are there for a guy who could potentially be there at pick 58.
So, Nick, your list on paper, Addison's your number 1, but maybe Zay is since then as your number 1, or maybe was intentionally who you meant to be number 1. So don't worry about the list. If Zay is your number 1, why is Zay?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think I said the wrong revision. I was on the show at the time with my guys from UK Cowboys. And that's the only flip I have on my thing. I literally had Zay at 1, Addison 2, Quentin at 3. But that's neither here nor there. Zay for me, number 1, and the things I talked about before is we're kind of pigeonholed at times to a size equivalent, and we go back to the Cole Beasleys of the world or whatever. What are slot guys? No, Zay's an outside wide receiver. That's who he is. 96, 97% of his snaps, they're outside his splits, right? Zay Flowers is number 1 on this board for me. Quentin Johnston, I think there's a lot to be said about him in general. But boy, just certain things in this game, I don't know, like body catching wise, different things, but he's up there. Addison, back to what Dom says, perfectly said. I don't need to see anything else about Addison. Dom nailed it. I think the guy that nobody talks about enough, I think it's Cedric Tillman from Tennessee. Yes. Maybe it's a hot take. I don't know. I know he's going to run fast. I mean, we get it. He's going to run fast. But you look at the tape, though, guys. He's protected. It's always stacked. It's always the same routes. It's the same thing. I don't know. Tillman, to me, showed more in Tennessee than Hyatt, in my opinion. He worries me somewhat. So I think Cedric Tillman's a guy that I don't think people talk about nearly enough in this draft where he is. Hence why he landed number 9 on my board. I think there's 3 guys here. And to be clear about JSN, I'm in love with JSN as well. If that's the pick at 26, I'm okay there. I think it works within the system. Okay, I would love to trade down for Josh Downs. I love Josh Downs tremendously. That's why I got him 4th on the board. But Zay Flowers is number 1. If Addison made it to us, I'm over the moon about it. Tillman, you should talk more about. And Dom, I agree with you as well. And I debated him getting Scott onto my top 10 list. I didn't quite do it, but Scott's kind of the guy I think throughout the rest of this process that we're going to see things rise, and even more so as we're seeing get the interview for Dallas. But I think Scott's going to rise as well, as where I would land on this. And Kayshawn as well. We know what it is with him, and when he's on, and different things in that realm of what he's done there. Not to take all the meat off the bone, get my Mary on here. Parker Washington. Y'all know I was in love with the guy from Penn State last year, and I hate the fact that he went to Washington. Parker's strong hands, man, and incredible catches away from the body and what he does. So the one great thing that I've extensively that I felt really good about this, the Cowboys have to add a wide receiver. It is very deep here in the first 2 rounds. But I think the Cowboys have to do it in the first 2 rounds, depending on what they do in free agency, because you can get in the waters a little bit. Now you can maybe going down to the Mims of the world, maybe the 3rd round, which Mims was good in Oklahoma. Don't get it twisted. But I think these guys here that we have on our list, you had to land one of these guys by 58 or it becomes a problem for the Cowboys.
Yeah. And to your point with Cedric Tillman, since you were talking about him versus Hyatt, and it actually is interesting. 2 of the 5 people on this panel, well, Mendoza's a mod, but he, definitely a big part of our group. 2 of the 5 didn't have Hyatt at all in their top 10, which it kind of feels like a spicy take, but I get it. Because look at everybody else. The people that did have him, the highest he is on anybody's list is number 8. So I thought that was interesting.
You can't coach speed. But outside of that, he needs work. He's developmental. Like these guys in the top 10, he's the most developmental in my opinion.
Yeah. And you mentioned Tillman too, something that the Cowboys, because Mike McCarthy, if you look at the profile of guys he's drafted, Tillman's 6'3". He fits well within that range. He has good speed, and he has more 100-yard receiving games against top 25 teams than Jalen Hyatt did in his career. And he had, against Georgia, who was number 1 in the country, a 10-catch, 200-yard game. And that was in 2021 when Georgia had one of the historically great defenses.
Right.
10-catch, 200-yard game. That's crazy. So, yeah, he's a baller. He's definitely somebody in this group that I feel like people aren't talking about enough. And Dom mentioned that, maybe when Dom does some revisions, he may slide in there potentially.
Wait, was I the only one? Wait. I didn't know this yet. Am I the only guy that had Cedric Tillman in the top 10?
You are, yeah.
Wow.
And
Mendoza has Dontavian Wicks. So those are the 2 guys that are not on anybody else's list. Okay. But I get it. Like, I understand that. For me, I have Quinn Johnston. He's my wide receiver 1 overall in this class. Now, if it was Cowboys specific, and to be fair, I didn't tell these gentlemen that it was Cowboys specific or overall, but to me, he's the best receiving prospect in this class just because of that speed size combination. Right. He does have some downsides. He never had a monster production year. His last year in college was his most productive year, and it was around 1,000-yard receiving. So for his size and speed, you'd think he'd be more dominant, but also the way that he's utilized in that offense, Max Duggan runs the ball a lot, and they had Keandre Miller, and that's kind of a big part of what they do. They rely on the defense and run game, and they're not necessarily a big air it out type of offense. So his overall production isn't too big of a knock for me, but I'm looking at the traits and things that I can't coach other guys to do. I can't make the small receiver 6'4". I can't make them run as fast as he's going to run. Right. Now, there are small burners in this class, but he has that unique combination of the other guys listed on the board right now. Jackson Smith and Jigba, you talked about as well. He's number 2 on my board, and Dom also had him number 2. Everybody else has him somewhere in that 3-4 range, like not too much further down. I think he fits perfectly in this offense. Now, he didn't run at the combine, and that's going to be something people are worried about. How fast is he? Because that's really the only question mark on him, aside from 2022 missing because of hamstring injury. Like, film's good. Route running is good. Release is good. Body size, profile, like all that's good. He interviewed well. It's just how fast is he? That's the biggest question. So that's interesting. So Rice is number 10 on my board, and it's interesting because he was a guy that a lot of people a month ago, 8 weeks ago or whatever were like, I'm interested at 26. I definitely want him at 58, and now he's a guy that's kind of falling down boards because we saw him at the Senior Bowl, and some of the concerns that I saw on tape on he's good in contested catches. He's a good yak guy. He showed that he could be a high volume target in an offense. He has a pretty good body size, but he was listed at 6'3" and came in at 6 foot. That's a big difference. You lost 3 inches in size, and you can't separate in college on film against random college cornerbacks. There was not a lot of separation, so that's already a concern. And then we see him in the Senior Bowl where the competition tightens up a little bit more because you're playing some of the better defensive backs in this class, and you can't get off press. You can't separate there either. So it kind of highlighted some of the concerns I already have. So he's a guy that if he's there at 90, cool, no problem. But I would not take him at 26, 0 chance of that. And I probably wouldn't take him at 58. So he's a guy that from a traits standpoint, or really a profile standpoint, fits a West Coast offense potentially. But I also feel like he's not any different at all than Michael Gallup. And he's not any different at all than Noah Brown. Obviously, he's more talented than Noah, but like what Noah does, he kind of gives you too much of the same thing. So overall, for some other teams, I think he would be a good draft pick. But for the Cowboys, I don't see it. So that's why he's so low on my list. And I wanted to bring him up because he's a fan favorite because he's a Texas boy. And he was a big name, but I think he's trending downwards, and I think there's a real reason for that. And Dom mentioned Tyler Scott on his list. Tyler Scott's going to run in like the 4.28, 4.31 range. Like he might be the fastest receiver in this class. It may not be Hyatt. Like Tyler Scott is a burner. Yeah. He's going to fly up boards. And then another name that we've seen trend up big time, and he definitely fits the McCarthy mold, is Michael Wilson, the Stanford wide receiver. He had injuries, but he's going to test well physically. He fits the bill, crushed the interviews, super intelligent guy, couldn't be covered in the Senior Bowl. So like he's a guy that right now, March 3rd, you may not see on top 10 list, but maybe in 3 or 4 weeks when the Senior Bowl, or not Senior Bowl, when the Combine and Pro Days have kind of fleshed themselves out, he may be in that conversation.
Yeah, and you know, kind of double down because I have JSN lower than everybody, and for me personally, it's just about the hamstring and just PTSD with Cowboys with wide receivers with hamstring. I'm not really worried about the overall top end speed for him in this West Coast and everything, and probably maybe why I have Rashee Rice a little bit higher than you, Jerry Rice's godson, West Coast slow guy, 6 foot and did everything, is some of those things. But yeah, JSN just for me personally. Just the injury stuff, what was going on there is why I had him down a little bit more than everybody else. But I think ultimately what we're looking at these guys across the board here, what we're talking about with a couple of indifferences of these guys, bro, I think these are guys you're seeing in the top, you know, in the top 64 is where we're landing here.
Yeah, and Rohit gave us his top 5, not his top 10, but he gave us 5. So Jordan Addison, which Eddie O, he's a USC guy, so that's music to his ears. JSN, Zay Flowers, Jalen Hyatt, and Cedric Tillman. So he likes both of the Tennessee guys. He has them both in the top 5, so that's an interesting list. And I'm seeing a lot of Parker Washington in the chat, too.
I like Parker as well, too. I'm big on Parker. But, boy, he got Cedric and Hyatt top 5. Oh, yeah. He's got to be a Volunteer fan.
You know?
Maybe he's a SEC fan. Or a fan of one of those teams and so on. I don't know, but I thought that was interesting. So, going to our final, well, as of right now, our top 10 wide receiver prospects in this draft. And again, what we did was if you're first on the board on each person's list, you get 10 points. Right. And if you're 10th, you get 1 point. So what I did was I just combined them all up, gave them their point scores. So here is our first ever Pick 6 Sports top 10 wide receiver big board.
I love it.
So Quinn Johnston, Jordan Addison, Jackson Smith, and Jake Butt. Starting with them, I don't think it's a surprise because they were all kind of the consensus overall looking at the 5 people that were on the panel. But Johnston and Addison, there's only a 1 point difference in score.
Fair.
And Nix, I mentioned earlier that had you switched Zay and Jordan, it really would have made a big difference because if you look at where Zay is, like he still would have been behind Jackson, and basically all that would have happened was Jackson and Addison would have swapped. So it really wouldn't have changed those 2 in particular. But I think it's interesting that Johnston and Addison are so close. So 1 point difference there, then a kind of significant drop off to Jackson, and then Zay Flowers, and then Josh Downs, and then it really drops off quickly from there. So you can't see at the bottom kind of because of the banner, but Jalen Hyatt's number 10 on the board. And again, that was because 2 people didn't have him at all. And the people that did have him had him at 8. So he ended up with a total of 9 points.
Let me get that banner up out of there. Boom, got it.
You know what? One thing I want to say is if we do this in a couple of weeks and we revamp our board, one guy that I would actually fight for is Cedric Tillman. Because, you know, this week, whenever I went back and I looked at my notes and then looked at some more games and went to see games that I've already seen of him, where they're playing against Alabama, they're playing against Georgia, going back to last year's tape in 2021, where he was definitely more explosive. He had the tightrope surgery where he had some ankle issues this year and only played part of the season because he was truly Tennessee's go-to guy coming into this year. Hyatt was actually more of an unknown commodity for them. So Tillman kind of reminds me of Michael Pittman Jr. And what he brings to the Colts.
I like that.
And they move very similar to one another. They're both possession receivers. They have good ball skills. I like how he fights back to the ball. He is a comeback king of this class. I like how he uses his body to shield well on back shoulder throws. He's big, he's physical, he has hands, he's sure of himself. So go watch him against Keely Ringo. Ringo had a couple of wins in that game. It was a good battle. There was one time Ringo ran the route for him and ended up getting an interception. But over and over, Tillman at the top of routes was able to come back and get big time separation against Ringo, who we know is a pretty athletic guy.
Right.
So, Tillman 6'3", 215, being able to get in those intermediate routes to bring a good target for a guy like Dak. If Tillman is somehow still there in the third round, that is excellent value. But I think I'm willing to even take him even at that 58 spot. I like him a lot more than where I had him. So he's easily going to get back into my top 10. Now it's all about who am I actually dropping down. So I would take him over Rashee Rice for sure, who made our list. Yeah. But it is what it is for now.
So let me ask this question as we're looking at our consensus here for everybody. Where's the line that you draw in the sand at 26 that you're not taking in our consensus here? Oh, where's the line you're drawing in the sand? Like, nope, I'm stopping here. I'm not taking any of these guys past this point at 26.
Yeah, for me, it's the top 4. And I think for some people, it might be the top 3. But for me, any of those top 4, I feel good with. And it's kind of interesting I say that because if you look at the difference in Zay Flowers and Josh Downs score-wise, it's only 1 point. But I definitely think there's a drop-off between those two players. And I think it's relatively sizable. So for me, any of those 4, I feel really good with. I do want to mention, too, before we move on, I think Kayshon Boutte is the guy in this list that probably will move up or down more than any other player. Like, he absolutely needs to have good interviews. And if he did good in his meetings, he's a guy that may go before pick 58. And if he did poorly, he may go after every single player we have in this top 10.
I agree. I think for me, I'm right there with you. I'm at the top 4. But I think Kayshon with the interview process could be the 5th guy at 26. Could be. I'm with you, depending on what he does outside of that. But I agree. I land there. I think the top 4 at 26 is where I'm at. And I love Josh Downs, but I'll trade down for Josh Downs. I don't know if I can pull the trigger at 26 though, but I love Josh Downs as well. Don, where's the cutoff line here for you? As our consensus is here now, our first consensus top 10 here with the wide receivers for 26 for the Cowboys.
Josh Downs was one of my initial receiver loves when it was pretty early in this process, whenever the 2022 college season started. And, behind the scenes, I dropped y'all some videos of him playing against my Notre Dame Irish. He knows how to work a zone. He knows how to get himself open. And I felt like he could be like the Cole Beasley type for our offense because he is a true slot. But because of that being a true slot, I don't see taking that kind of player with the way that we know Dallas does things at 26. Right. So my line where I would draw in the sand would be Zay Flowers because Flowers played predominantly on the outside at Boston College. And we keep saying this. We've said it for weeks now. They look at him being a smaller guy and think small guys are slot only, but that's simply not true. So I've seen what he can do. He was my guy from 3 weeks ago where I said if I wasn't being a coward to steal from Jeff Kavanaugh, if I weren't a coward, he'd be my wide receiver 1. So I'm comfortable with anybody in that top 4 of our list being an option at 26.
Yeah, don't worry. I'm not a coward. Zay Flowers is my number 1 for sure. Parker Washington intrigues me, but yeah, I'm with you guys. Once again, just kind of to put the cap on it. We believe all of us across the board here, going down to Zay Flowers, 1 through 4 here, and the consensus would be the guys who would take at 26, with the wild card being maybe Kayshon and how he interviews. We all land and agree on that?
Yeah, I I don't know that even if he interviews well, that he's a guy I feel comfortable at 26 with, just because.
Okay. Is there a different guy outside of the 4 wild card wise?
For me, no.
Okay, no.
Even if Hyatt runs as advertised or Tyler Scott runs as advertised, I love them at 58. I don't see enough of a value at 26 for me.
Okay. Dom, is there a guy, period, outside of the top 4 we have on the consensus that could be a wild card at 26 wide receiver for you?
No, not for me.
Okay. All right. Well, there it is. Round 1 in. Next week, we'll decide. We'll let y'all know during the week who we're doing top 10 for next week. This week was wide receiver, and we'll get on the back end and figure out what we're doing next week for the top 10. We'll let you know early during the week what it's going to be. We'll build that up throughout the process. Follow us on Twitter. This is how you can find us all on Twitter, and what we'll talk about throughout the week doing that. So, ladies and gentlemen, is it mock draft time? Is that it? Are we through with the slides now? We're good. We on to the mock draft?
Yeah, we're ready.
Boy, I cannot wait to see, after the combines happened, everything else, how this mock draft from PFF is going to roll. I cannot wait to see how this thing's going to do. All right, let's
keep in mind too what it looks like now. It's going to completely change.
Oh,
in 2
sure.
weeks.
Yes. No.
We may not move that much, but the board will.
Yeah. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. All right. Let's see. We got fast. Let me get the Cowboys here.
Trading, no trading. Sticking and picking.
You know, we tried that last week. Let's try to. We'll try to stick and pick again. But damn it, you know what happened last week, though, guys.
Chat, we need your input. If you guys don't like what we have and you want to trade back or trade up, let us know.
Let's enter the draft. Here we go. All right, let's scroll.
Zay's off the board. I saw him.
Will Anderson, number 1. Bryce Young, number 2. Jalen Carter, whatever be damned, number 3. Will Levis to the Colts, Dom.
I hate it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Miles Murphy, 5 to Seattle. Tyree Wilson to the Lions. Interesting. Back-to-back edges there with Hutchinson. Anthony Richardson to the Raiders. Interesting.
That's who the Colts should have gotten.
Oh, well, neither here nor there. Cole, and then the Falcons going with Christian Gonzalez. CJ Stroud makes it all the way to the Panthers. Paris Johnson, Quentin, the wide receiver, Quentin Johnson, both to go back-to-back in first rounds here for Tennessee.
I would absolutely love Philly taking Paris Johnson.
Okay, fair enough. Devon Witherspoon, cornerback, going to.
So they have Witherspoon and Stingley back-to-back drafts.
That part. Northwestern in the building to the Jets.
Oronsky.
Broderick Jones, Patriots. Joey Porter Jr. to the Packers. Luke Van Ness to Washington. Jordan Anderson. Oh, they get rid of Juju. They get Jordan Anderson. Look at him go. Brian Branch to the Lions. Bijan to the Bucks. Interesting. JSN to Seattle with DK and Locke. Ooh. Nasty.
We get
Osiris over here. Our guy, our former offensive coordinator said, "Hey guys, we need some more offensive linemen." Huh? All right.
He said, "I need a fullback. Where's my fullback? Who's my guard that can play fullback?"
Oh, Zay Flowers. Zay goes over here to the Ravens. Cam Smith to Minnesota. First tight end off the board here. Mayer to Notre Dame in the building to the Jags. Hyatt.
We got wiped.
Yeah.
Hyatt to the G-Man. All right, guys.
There's some interesting names still.
All right, guys. Let's get on our side. We just talked about wide receivers. Let's go to wide receiver real quick. All right. Wiped. We got guys here in our top 10 though, but we're wiped, right? So Tank Dell in the building, Josh Downs, Kayshawn, Wilson. We mentioned nobody has in their top 10, but we mentioned McCarthy guy, Rice, Parker Washington, Reed. All right, A.T. Perry. I know the chat was talking. Cedric Tillman, my guy Tillman, Tyler Scott in the building. All right, so that's out of the board, right? We're done here.
And out of that list too, only 2 of that top 9 or so you showed were guys that they visited with, formal or informal. But yeah, I don't think any of those are 26 worthy.
Now running back, I don't think this is happening now, right? Gibbs would be the guy. They met with Devin, but you're not taking him here. So running back is definitely off the board, right? We interviewed a lot of cornerbacks, right?
Yep.
Let's go to corner. Maryland in the building.
He had a great combine too.
Maryland in the building. Dante Banks.
They didn't visit with him, but doesn't mean they don't like him.
Look, they didn't visit with old Parsons. 6'2", 205 for those that don't know. 23 years old. Or no, is he 23? Is he 22? I don't forgot. But either way, they say versatile. Banks has athletic skill set, tackling ability to wear many hats in the defense. His best role may even be L'Jarius Sneed-esque big slot at the next level. Just throwing it out there. Right? Forbes in the building. Right? Okay, Ringo down here a little later. That's how they rule. What's the next position you want to look at, guys? I mean, obviously, Kancey in the building. Pittsburgh, we know what he did.
As you say, Scroll. If you listen to the latest draft show, they had Will McClay on, and he was explaining about cornerbacks, how he was a former cornerback, coached it. And they talked about, like, what are some things that are your pet peeves? He specifically brought up a part of that about cornerbacks and footwork.
Right.
Like, that's his thing. But, over the years, you kind of get over your biases. And so I look at Deonte Banks, and he is not the most polished guy when it comes to his footwork. And that note talked about him stopping his feet often, and you actually see that's a good pickup by PFF. And you see him take a few false steps, but yet he's got great hips. He can flip, he can move, he can run. He showed his athleticism here at the combine. So for me, from what I'm seeing so far, he's definitely the top cornerback and a guy that could potentially be worth that 26 pick. For receiver, I didn't see anything there, and I'm definitely not going a defensive tackle out of the ones that are here this early.
Here's the thing, though, and something sticks in my mind here. And when you hear it, like, kind of in passing, I think we need to be on board about Mozzie Smith. I'm just telling you. I think there's something there. I'm not saying it's the pick, but I think the Cowboys are very interested in him. Just throwing it out there.
I knew this was going to happen for him because he is an athletic freak. He's a genetic freak. 6'3", 337, can move the way that he moves. But from a play-in, play-out basis, when you watch him from game to game, you see a guy who is sacrificing quite a bit. And he could be more of a selfish guy if they wanted to utilize him that way on one-on-one. So he is taking on quite a few doubles. And he's fixed right there in the middle for them, taking on the brunt of interior offensive linemen. He's a guy that their team, the leaders on that team, they all point to him as the guy that kept that thing going. So he's a man's man. He's a perfect teammate, but 26 is just a little too rich for basically a nose tackle. And we know our team doesn't cover.
I think the winds are changing. All I'm saying is, if the board landed this way, there's only one guy to me that I think they would take instead of him. I think the third. Hold on, I'll do it this way. I'll do it this way. If the board lands this way, I think and obviously we're not looking at free agency and what they do, right? If the board landed this way, I think ultimately the Cowboys pick goes down to three guys. I think it's Banks, I think it's Nolan Smith, and I think it's Mozzie Smith. I think those are one of the picks that they take here.
Rohit's mentioned in the chat several times, but I think Kancey's a guy they would definitely consider because he's a high value pick at that spot. And he's a 3-tech that can play all over the place. He's small, but he's also a guy. We also have another small 3-tech already in Osa, but he's a guy with that wrestling background and, lit up the combine, traits off the charts, physical size, maybe not what you're really looking for, but production's good. I think they would definitely consider him, but those three you mentioned are the three that I'm kind of circling in.
Yeah.
I have to be honest with you guys. I don't mind being the one to say it because everyone else likes Deontay Banks. I don't see it.
Okay.
Like you see him at the combine, lights it up. Watch the film. He's not that dude. Like when you watch the film, he's just not that guy. And Jacorian Bennett, his teammate, played more snaps than him. They rotated Banks out. Banks, the guy that everybody has going top 5 or 6 cornerback in this class. Banks is the guy that rotated out, and they did it like every second or third series. The entire series, he just sat out. It's weird. Like watch Michigan, watch SMU. Like you think this is the dude who's that guy? Like you're gonna play him like Georgia did with Ringo. Like I'm gonna go put him on your wide receiver 1. No, he barely played against Bryce.
Right.
Very rarely played against him. They had Bennett against him. It's just interesting. Like if he's your elite best cornerback, why is he rotating out? But if you look at him physically, great size, speed, really good. He actually is a sound tackler. Some people brought it up in there. He's not a super physical guy for his size. And when I say that, he will set the edge. He will make tackles, but he doesn't aggressively set the edge. But again, I can live with that. But there's a lot of times you'll see him kind of just jog up to a pile and watch somebody else make the tackle. He's not like an exceptionally physical guy, but he looks like he should be. I don't know. Like when I watch him, I'm like, I get why people like him, but he just doesn't stand out at all. And he has really bad ball skills, and that's a big thing for me because I'm Mr. Take the ball away. Like I prioritize that over almost anything.
Yeah, back to your horn take last year. Absolutely.
Yeah, he had 2 interceptions total in his career, and that was on over 1,000 coverage snaps. Like,
right. So,
I don't know.
So
for me, I would not take him, but I definitely think he would be in the mix for the Cowboys because he fits the length profile, speed, traits, and all that. And then maybe you can coach him up. I agree. Those 3 make sense.
So how about this? So let's pivot him out there because I agree with you on Banks. I actually agree. I think that's a Cowboys take, but I agree. But this is Pick 6 Sports. So let's do what we do. Is it Kancey, Smith, or Mozzie? Where you at?
I'm biased, of course, but Nolan Smith just absolutely lit up the combine. And you look at his production, and people are going to say, yeah, but he didn't really put up big sack numbers. And, this guy did. But he also, if you look at his snap count, Georgia heavily rotates. And this is a team, like, he was splitting snaps with Jermaine Johnson. Jermaine Johnson transferred from Georgia to FSU to go be a first-round pick because he could not beat Nolan Smith out in the rotation. And you look at some of the other names that were in there, like Adam Anderson, a guy that last year, had he not had the off-the-field issues, would have been a first-round pick.
Right.
Beal. Look at all of the defensive linemen Georgia's put out. They heavily rotate these guys. And they, last year and this year, the last 2 seasons, had an average margin of victory of over 28 points at halftime. So when you're blowing teams out like that, you'll see guys like Will Anderson not get the snap counts you'd want to see because they're up so big, they're going to give the other guys opportunities for the entire fourth quarter. So when other teams are in pass-heavy mode and you see these edge rushers racking up the sacks late in games, you're going to see guys like Nolan Smith and Will Anderson that don't really get to feast because they're just not out there. So he's a player from a trait standpoint I think the Cowboys would absolutely love. You can do a lot with him. He actually is a really good run defender for his size.
Not worried about his weight?
Not really, because I look at guys like Hassan Reddick,
right,
Robert Mathis. Like, there's been guys that have very similar body types. And another good one is Odafe Owe. He was Micah Parsons' teammate.
Right.
He was 238 pounds. He went in the first round. He ran a 4.37, I think, at the combine. So he absolutely blazed, just like Micah did at that combine. He had 0 sacks that year, but still went in the first round because of the traits. So I think if he falls to 26, you have to take him, in my opinion. But he also is a position of relative need because you have Dorrance Armstrong entering the last year of his contract. You have Tank, who's kind of getting to the twilight of his career. Edge is not a huge need for me, but I can find places to play him, and it will be a need moving forward. So for me, I would take him.
All right, Dom, where you landing here? Emmanuel Forbes even in that mix for you? But take a Banks out. I would take Forbes over Banks. Am I crazy?
I would easily.
Even so Forbes over Banks, yes, but Forbes at 26. I'm kind of hesitating now with that 166 pounds.
He'll be 180. Look, here's the thing, though.
He's going to have to put on weight, but that's a lot of weight.
He'll be 180 by training camp. I think he'll be 180 by training camp, but neither here nor there.
That's a lot to put on, though.
I think he cut weight to run faster, but that's a different conversation for a different time.
I mean, he played at 162 last year, according to Bucky Brooks.
Yeah, okay. And one guy was 6'3", now he's 6 feet. But neither here nor there. Yeah. All right. So Cansey, Smith, Mozzie, Forbes. Where you at here?
Nolan Smith is the easy pick, but I'm almost to the point of let's just spice it up. Because we know Nolan Smith ain't going to be here.
Oh, no. Look, somebody's got to be here, Dom. All these guys running fast and blowing everything. Somebody has to be here.
He ain't going to be the somebody.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, who's the guy you rolling with then? Yeah. Yeah.
See, I think it's Cansey or Smith here. Like, if those are who on the board, those are who the Cowboys are really deciding between.
I would go with Cansey.
It's fair. Here's the thing, and I said this after the combine. If Nolan Smith's on the board at 26, you run up and you turn the card in. You run and turn the card in.
Right.
Traits be damned. And again, the one thing we've seen about the Cowboys, especially the last 2 drafts, if you have traits, they're willing to bring you in here and coach you up. And not saying that, and when I say that, when I'm talking about Nolan Smith, not that he has a good tape, but the traits and things that he has screams what the Cowboys will want to do here. For me personally, if it lands this way, it's Nolan Smith by a country mile, as he's country strong, as he talks about. As Tuck said, when he ran the 40, he was country gone. But if we're going to take Nolan out of the equation, we're going to go on that he's not here. Go give me Cansey. I love Mozzie Smith. Don't get me wrong, but that gonna go give me Cansey. That's where I would be at, guys.
Right.
So chat, let us know. So we kind of have a mix because Knicks would take Smith, but given the board and knowing Smith probably is not there, and I don't know if Cansey's there, but if Cansey's there and that's what you're deciding between, what are you guys taking? I know Rohit, he's already on the board. He said Cansey's his guy, so we got Rohit on deck. Anybody else want to weigh in? Because we would have Spoonie. And Spoonie might go one way or the other and kind of make it a little bit more spicy. But
Spoonie would say, go get me Siaki Ika.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you know. But I do want to be clear as the votes are coming in. I just want to really delve this point home. I think Mozzie Smith is a huge probability at 26, depending on what happens on the board for the Cowboys. I'm buying what I'm hearing and what I've heard about some of the things they like about him. You know, some people are going to roll their eyes because Taco from Michigan got drafted here, whatever. We're not talking about the same kind of prospect here, though. I want to be clear, you know, because the last guy we drafted in the first round was Taco, whatever. But I am buying that Mozzie Smith does have guys in the building that want him here. Absolutely.
So, who's the pick going to be? The chat hasn't really helped us out. We got a couple Nolan Smiths and a couple Canseys, and we got one Mazzy, so we're not really any further ahead right now. So I'm gonna put it back to you guys.
We all said no. Look, right, Dom. If
just go with Nolan.
If Nolan's here, you're taking him, right?
Yeah.
Like we can't say nothing else. If
you know what,
if the board falls this way, we're taking. If this is the board, right?
Be honest to the process here,
right? If this is the board, is there another guy? The Georgia fan will be removed here. For you, Dom, and me. If this is the board, are we drafting anybody over Nolan right here?
No.
Okay. There's no music available, apparently.
I would want them to trade back.
With the number 26 pick in the 2023 draft, the Dallas Cowboys select edge, University of Georgia Bulldogs, Nolan Smith. All right, guys, we did it. Nolan Smith. I am going to jump to defensive line real quick.
I like Benton.
Ooh, okay, you got Benton. You got my guy Morrow here. Roy. Okay. Colburn. Okay. We all want to go. Yeah, I mean, this is the wide receiver show. You want to go to wide receiver?
You know, I'm thinking about so far the guys you've seen. Yeah, go ahead and go receiver.
Okay.
But some of those defensive tackles that I've seen, you know, I think about a little bit of versatility, and Dexter from Florida can give you the 3-1 versatility.
We got some love at wide receiver at 58 now with Tank, Josh, Wilson, Rice, Parker.
Yeah,
Reed,
it's gonna be a receiver.
Tillman, Scott. Okay.
You still got Tillman too. See, like, knowing what's on the board, I think Tillman or Scott would be there, I think, at 90. So I think I'd be willing to risk it. So now cornerback, defensive tackle, guard, like those are the positions now. And even linebacker that I'm like, you know, what are we working with there?
So
linebacker Henley, he'd be interesting.
Campbell
had a good combine.
Williams, Drew Sanders is up out of here. Big shot.
I don't know what people see in Henley, the Wazoo linebacker. I've watched and I get the speed, but tape, I don't see it.
So we have 1 vote for A.T. Perry and 2 for Cedric Tillman so far.
I don't know.
Definitely not going quarterback.
I mean, do we want to go? Do you want to go look at guard?
What do we have at cornerback?
No, we go to corner. Okay, I got you. Corner. Let's go to corner. Garrett. Does anybody think the Cowboys will be interested in Tomlinson?
No, zero chance.
Okay.
He's a really good player too, but he's just way too small for them.
Ben is still on the board, which I think we all kind of agree with, like Ben a little bit more. I think I'm more on Jalen Jones than y'all are. I've been on Jalen Jones for about a month now. I think I'm solo in that realm. Blue Kelly in the building. Ricks, Williams, some injury stuff there. So, Bennett and Jalen Jones will be my guys at this point. I think you can wait. And Turner. Look,
Blazer.
Be clear. And I said this earlier. Stop mocking Turner in the 3rd round. You're not getting DJ Turner in the 3rd round. It's not happening.
We're in the 4th fastest 40 in combine history.
Yeah, it's not happening.
He only ran 1 time because he's like, I'm good.
If you want DJ Turner, you better take him here. You're not getting him in 90. I'm just saying. But where we want to go, guys? Well, I mean, you want to look at running back real quick? I mean, looks like the Cowboys are keeping all the running backs ever they've had, but I mean, boom, there's one of the guys they met with. Maybe
See, I feel good at linebacker with what's on the board. Like I'm nobody there. There's not anybody there that I'm like, I'm risking it right now. Like defensive tackle, there's a few guys that I'm like, they won't be there at 90. And for me, that guy is Benton. I think Benton would be a great pick right now for the Cowboys. He's a guy that has position flex, but he also is a good run stopper, good motor. I like him a lot here. Cody would be an interesting guy here.
What about Cody Mock here? Because I don't think Cody Mock is going to make it to 90 anyways, but I'm just throwing him out there. Where you at here, Dom? Where we're looking? Nobody Andre Carter, Army? No Edge? Nobody Edge, okay?
No, I'm out on Carter.
All right.
Not completely, but at 58, yeah.
Right. Oh, Edge, because once again, I mean, we're kind of out there. A lot of edges here, apparently.
K-State guy. I think Tank Dell would be the pick here if you're going to go receiver.
So you ready to pull the trigger here over any other position?
Because I think Benton is really a round 3 guy.
Okay.
Personally.
I don't disagree with you, but he's a guy that I'm like, he's hard to pass up here.
It would be one of these receivers. But I mean, we got the edge in the 1st round. I mean, I'm good. Look, and I'm good. Roll the dice. I'll take Dale or Downs here at 58.
Which one?
I'll take Tank or Downs.
So if you were picking, who are you picking next?
I have Downs higher on my board.
I got to go down. Yeah, I mean, and I love Dale, but yeah, I look ultimately. Yeah, I would be Josh Downs here. That's where I'd be at. Although, but then I get greedy. I'm like, but can I get Parker Washington at 90? Can I get him there and get the defensive tackle here? Can I do that?
You have potentially Parker Washington at 90 or Cedric Tillman on this board. True. Maybe not in real life, but.
So let me ask you. All right, so let's pivot back here, Dom. We're looking at the D tackles here. All right, is there a guy here that you want to take and maybe roll the dice at wide receiver? We know what's there or no?
No.
Definitely. So you're definitely on the wide receiver train. Over corner, over everything, it's wide receiver right here for you.
I would consider A-Chain at
what tight ends do we have?
That's what I'm looking right now. Okay. Laporta, Kraft, Luke. Yeah, I mean, tight ends kind of wiped here this way. Unless you want to go, if you're a believer in Laporta, you're pretty much wiped at this moment.
And if we're tagging Tony Pollard, I'm not getting A-Chain here.
Right. Are you interested in a quarterback here?
Nah.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right, guys. Well, let's pull the trigger. You were the blend wide receiver extraordinaire. Oh, who's the wide receiver for you here? If we were pulling the trigger.
So first off, Rohit is really upset we didn't take Cansey. I don't think we undersold him. He's a good player. He was the guy we narrowed it down to, but the big board and War Room made the decision. He's off the board, so we got to move on past that. I love Tank Dell.
Yeah.
I just feel like Josh Downs is the more realistic of the two, but they did interview Dell and not Downs, so maybe.
Let's go Dell. Let's get Dell.
Take Tank Dell.
Let's
give
go
me.
Dell
We need
off the
another
interview.
tank on this team. Give me Tank Dell. I don't care.
Let's do it. But the number 58 pick, the Dallas Cowboys select University of Houston wide receiver Tank Dell.
Sorry, delayed.
It's all good. Now you get a call, Brooks, who is a D tackle here.
Shay said trade. Yeah.
Nah, well, we're not trading. Let's go to D line. Lost your guy. Got your guy though still.
I think Dexter would be the pick
Yeah,
here.
you got your guy here. Although, I mean, have you not looked at Jomo? Have you not paid attention to him, or
no.
what do you not like about him? I know you're a UT guy. I know you watch UT. What do you don't like about him?
I have
you
him
like
in
Auburn better from UT, or
No,
Talk
I
to me, Goose.
have both of them in the 4th round.
Okay,
I think
Gotcha.
PFF is just way too high on the Texas guys.
got you. Are you thinking at 90? Are you interested in Bennett here from
Ricks.
Maryland? Ricks, you interested in Ricks here?
Ricks or Bennett?
Turner?
Bennett. I like
Or
Bennett.
Turner.
I like Bennett too.
I like
See,
Bennett a lot.
I'm like Bennett and Turner right here. If I was going corner.
What is Cody Mock still available, or is he gone?
I'm going to linebacker real quick. Just over Sean makes a lot of sense. Y'all know how I love Pace Jr. Y'all know how I love Pace. Let's go to tackle real quick. No way, right? There's no way Cody Mock's here, right? Let's see.
No, he's gone.
Yeah, he's gone. Yeah,
All right, so
he's out of here.
hold on.
Yeah, cool. So I think.
Freeland.
What about running back?
Hey,
Wait, go ahead.
Professor,
Voorhees.
you were talking about the kid Freeland from BYU, Blake Freeland, tackle.
Mm-hmm.
I went and I watched even more of him this week, bro.
You a fan?
I'm a fan.
Oh, he's a fan.
I'm not O-line dude, but I was watching him like, why is he not being talked about? He's good.
I
He
mean,
didn't give up the
another
singles.
interview guy. DA's in the building.
Wow, how is he still there?
DA's in the building here at 90.
Those top three on the board right now, running back's so deep, but those top three would be hard. It'd be hard to walk away from any of those three. But there's still plenty of good guys after that too. So,
We gotta
how much you willing to roll the
I mean,
dice?
Laporta's still in the building.
We got to get A-Chain.
We going A-Chain? I mean, dude, at 90, it's hard to pass up on A-Chain. I'm with you.
I do
mean,
agree though with Dom that Eli Ricks is the guy that they're saying we had him at 45 on our board and he's there at
Yeah.
90.
Boy, and Wilson on the board too here.
Yeah, and
I mean,
Wilson.
Then you want to double dip there.
Dang.
Over Sean, the interview guy. This seems about the right time for him at linebacker. Tough. Oh, god dang. Parker Washington's on the daggone board.
This is a crazy day two for this.
Yeah. Like, this is the moment here where you're like, do you trade down? Like, right here. Like, last week, we kind of made the move. Right now is like, boy, can you trade down and double dip, though?
Let's look. What do we have on the board as trades?
All right.
How
really quick.
because we don't want to leave day 3 or day
I
2,
know,
sorry.
Yeah. So we have New Orleans. They're next. So we're at 90. They're at 115. And where's the next one? Wait. Yeah.
So where it says New Orleans, you just click
Yeah, I
that
got
drop
it.
down.
Yes,
Yeah.
see it right there. Pittsburgh's at 120, so we're out.
No, I'm
Like,
good.
we're
We'll just
Yeah.
stick and pick.
We want to stick a pick. All right, guys. Here we go. Here we go. Where are you at? I'm DA
A-Chain.
right here. I'm DA
A-Chain.
right here. You can talk me into Ricks, but I'm DA right here.
Those are the two I'm between.
A-Chain.
Let's go A-Chain. He's gonna light up. He's gonna be a super fast guy. And
Well.
if you franchise tag Pollard, you're not locked into that contract. You have your future speedster. Like, I'm cool with that. He's a local dude, so we'll take him.
Carl Brooks just continuously falls down this damn board. Michael there saying,
Running backs. To,
"Oh, look,
about-
now we're in that range here now."
Go to guard.
Guard, okay, got you.
cornerback, is Bennett still available? He's probably gone by now. But if he's there, I'm good.
No, I don't want any of them.
Oh, can he be there? I bet he's not there. But oh boy, if we hit though, oh my God,
I'm in. Lock it in.
oh
That's
my God,
pick.
oh my God. I'll let you speak. I'm sorry. Oh. Let Dom's done. Dom's out. Dom don't get no choice here.
Go ahead, Dom.
Go ahead, Dom.
No, that's it. No,
Bennett?
no. I was saying send the card in.
Let's go. We're running up. Quarterback, Maryland, Bennett. Let's go. We rolled the dice and we won here. I feel like we really won on this one, guys. Wow. Look, I mean, I'll take Joey McBride again. I don't even care. Dorian Williams, where y'all? I mean, the world is our oyster at this point. The world is our oyster. Where y'all? I mean, what y'all want to do? Y'all get some offensive linemen. What y'all want to do, man? Hey, man, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling pretty snazzy right now.
That linebacker look like.
You want to go that linebacker? Let's hit that linebacker.
I'm interested in offensive line at this point too. Like this is where it starts becoming interesting too.
It's true. So, I mean, obviously, Dorian Williams, we talked about him here from Tulane. Cam Jones, Indiana. Ventrell Miller, right? Kind of got some guys in here. D. Winters, obviously a local favorite. They've interviewed with D as well, too. And again, the Cowboys here now. And this is the meat here, right? 163, 170, 176. You're going to get 3 picks, very successive, back-to-back-to-back, right? So it just kind of depends on where you want to kind of land and where you want to go, guys. Some speed here, even from the wide receiver from Princeton, if you want to double dip. Do you want to think about? Oh man.
Oh, you saw that.
Oh, Jerry. Oh, my boy Clark's in the building at D tackle.
You know what though? Brooks was not still on here, was he?
I think he was, or maybe he was in the last pick when we took Bennett. He may not still be there.
Dean, another interesting guy as well.
I think.
I don't know why they have Lovett still in here. Oh, gotta start talking about Luke here at tight end, guys, from Michigan. Just saying. Maybe not here at 163, but I think over the next 3 picks, he has to be in consideration.
You know, somebody that we haven't really talked up is that Brayton. If you go up a little bit from Utah, offensive lineman.
Got you. Yeah.
That's one of Eliezer's guys from all the way back in October.
Eliezer.
But he's a guy that, you know, a lot of people have been talking about moving inside the guard. But he's got some movement skills. He's a big kid. He's long. He's going to have to put on a little bit more weight and functional strength. But he's definitely a good developmental guy that you want to see what you can do with. And remember, position flex is valuable for them. I would still go Brooks if he was still there. If not, I'd go Mafi, who's a guard for UCLA.
Oh, UCLA, yeah. I like Mafi. I'm good with Mafi. But would you take Mafi over Dorian Williams here, linebacker for Tulane?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Dorian Williams.
Okay, how about any of the linebackers here, real quick? Cam Jones, Miller. No. Miller, D. Winters. No. Wait. Okay. All right. You. So thinking inside offensive line, and you taking Mafia right here.
Yep.
I mean, it matches up. Rank 163. We're picking 163.
UCLA is a fun little offensive line to watch.
Indeed. And you think about the coach there, right? Chip Kelly. What they do. A little bit of that zone scheme that we're kind of bringing in here. Things kind of match up. They kind of tie together. Where you at here? Boy,
Eddie
Jared
said
Clark,
if we
Jared
take
Clark,
Mafi,
though.
he's leaving. He said, I'm not sticking around and watching you take a UCLA guy. So for me,
Who said that?
Eddie O, he's a USC fan.
Oh, okay.
And we don't ever take his USC players, and he gets mad at that. We didn't have a choice this time. They just weren't on the board. But for me, it's Clark or Mafi. I'm going big. I'm going big with this pick. Cowboys are going to go big this offseason. I'm going big literally this pick. Give me either one of those two.
Here's the thing, guys. Dom, can I talk? Can I get you to trust me in this war room?
Yep.
Can I get you to trust me that I'm gonna get Clark here, but I guarantee you at 170 I'll get you Mafi.
Yeah, that's fine.
Can we do that? Oh,
Yeah.
are you long for the ride? Can we roll these dice here? Can we
Yeah,
go
I'm
Clark
good.
here and go for
Because if it
Monty?
was up to me, Clark is who I would pick over the two, and I like both. So either way is a win for me. But yeah, I'm
do
taking
it.
Clark out of the two.
Let's go Clark. 163. We're going defensive tackle, Coastal Carolina, Jared Clark, and we're running right back to UCLA. We're going right back to UCLA, though. I promise you. I promise you, Dom. I'm getting UCLA. I promise you. I promise you, Dom. I promise you, Dom.
Promising? Yeah, I don't.
I promise you,
Hey!
Dom. I'm getting you UCLA here at 163. Thank you for believing in me in the war room, Dom. At 170, the Cowboys select Antonio Mafi, guard, UCLA.
So now at 176, is this where
Jesus.
you
Jesus.
double dip at running back? Because my
Jesus.
guy McBride's there, and I'm
Jesus.
running to the board because I got
Jesus.
A-Chain, my
Jesus.
speed back, and now I got my high volume guy.
We
So
can't do it. But
Keaton Mitchell's too similar to
We
A-Chain.
already
So
got a smaller guy.
Oh
Yeah.
my God,
Yeah.
McBride's here. How is McBride
value.
at
I don't know.
176?
Because he runs like a 4.58 or something like that, but I don't care.
What about safety? Can I
No,
talk
I'm
into
taking
safety?
McBride.
Can I talk into the trading?
No.
No? Okay.
Not
So
with
they met with him. Brandon Hill is another guy they met with.
Yeah, Hill's another
I don't
guy.
really
Yeah.
know too much about him personally. I haven't watched Brandon Hill at all. He tested really well, but I haven't watched him, so I can't tell you if he's good or
Boise
bad.
State, Tyree Jones? No? No, can't do that? No? Okay. All right. Can I what, double dip at corner? Can I double dip at corner? Or no? You want double dip at corner? No.
Haley, you may be way behind us. We already took A-Chain. We got A-Chain on the board. He's locked in.
A-Chain's in the building. Tidy. Oh, that's my pick. I'm done. That's my pick right there.
Over Dwayne McBride?
You already got DA. Look, and I'm going on the presidents that they're tagging Pollard. They're bringing Zeke back. There's no way they're going to carry four running backs. You need another tight end.
Give me Schoonmaker.
If the Cowboys were going to move on from one of these guys, I'm right here with you. Oh, but they're not. And you only get one luxury at running back in this draft at this point because of what they're going to do. We're into the luxury.
All right. Let's do it.
176 Cowboys take tight end Michigan. Luke! Say that last name there, Dom.
Schoonmaker.
Shoemaker.
And let's see.
Meeting guy as well. Another guy that they met with at the combine, ladies and gentlemen.
He was a formal, too.
That part. Are you okay, guys?
Quarterback
can I talk-
now, maybe.
Quarterback. Can I talk into quarterback?
Safety, maybe.
Quarterback.
Cornerback again, maybe.
We got
Trey Dean.
Aiden. We got Aiden from Purdue. Clayton soon.
Trey
Max.
Dean.
I like
Yo.
Toon, personally.
I like soon.
Yeah.
Going with you. Y'all, what y'all think? What about linebacker? Is this a D Winters moment where they met with him?
No. Winters can fly. Like on
Yeah.
the field, he's a quicker guy than what
Yeah.
I think his 40 time showed.
Right, and they met again. They interviewed you. I mean, D Winters would be a guy up there for me. Trey Dean here at safety. Or
Wide receiver, I'd be interested again because we took one early. What are we working with?
Short,
Puka is interesting.
Georgia.
Got
Mario
Jadakiss.
Douglas.
Mario.
Mario Douglas.
I'm good.
Trey
Trey Tucker actually be really interesting right here.
Oh Lord.
Oh, Trey Tucker is there. Yeah.
Oh, that's
I don't care
gone.
what PFF has him ranked, but
Yeah,
yeah,
Trey
when he's
Tucker.
gonna run like a 4.28 or something, he's gonna light it up.
Fourth round value right there. Him and
Trey's
Trey
intriguing.
Dean.
I want to pick 212. Yeah,
But would you go? No, we looked at that corner. Well, then we looked at the corner. But would you go over the linebacker here?
Winners.
Yeah.
Of course.
Would you do that? Where would you be here? Where would you land? Or would you go quarter? Is this where you pull the trigger quarterback even? Where do you want to be? Talk to me, Goose.
Well, the way that this is working out, Trey Tucker is going to still be there on the board. Winters is probably going to come off. So if we need a linebacker, you better get Winters now. I don't think we need a quarterback because none of these guys are going to develop into much.
Okay. Look, they didn't tell me. I'll take Winters here. I'll go linebacker here and roll the dice of 246 and see where we land.
D. Winters.
What do you think? What do you think? Go.
TCU.
See, I would take a quarterback here.
You would take a quarter. Okay. Who's
Yeah,
your
I mean,
quarterback?
we're down to our final 2 picks.
Yeah.
We know the Cowboys want a quarterback. We had 6 that we had formal or informals with, so I like Tune a lot. I would happily take him here.
Go Tune.
Could you roll winners to get Tune next round?
Well, we only have 2 picks left, so
Sure.
potentially, and we did have Jaron Hall again. He was another guy, so I don't know.
Right.
You're not going to get any of
I
those.
will acquiesce to the board here.
And Max Duggan.
Do you wanna roll
Quarterback
it?
is more important.
I got a chance to roll my dice. I got to roll my dice in one. I won't roll my dice here. How do y'all want to roll y'all dice here? Y'all go Tune here and see what we got at 246?
Tune.
Or you go winners here and roll what you got at quarterback at 246? I'll leave it to you guys.
Position
Tune.
value. Tune.
Tune? Okay. Tune.
So next year, you're cool not taking Hunter.
Yeah.
I can roll
Or
the dice
Moody?
at 2. I'll roll the dice at 246 here.
Okay.
Again, I got to roll my dice earlier at D tackle, so I'm going to acquiesce here. I know they want a quarterback, and I think I can get something that I feel good about at 246 so we go quarterback. Because I don't think, honestly, I think if we don't draft Tune here, it's going to be Max Duggan at 246. So what do you like more? Do you like Max or do you like Clayton Tune?
I'm taking Tune.
Okay, did we have to? If that's the case in the war room, did we have to take Tune now? Because I don't think he makes it to 246.
No, he doesn't.
That's where I'm at. So, boom, 212. Dallas Cowboys select University of Houston, and wait,
Teammate.
right? Little symmetry there. Clayton Tune, quarterback. Go Cougs. Ooh, Trey Dean still on the board of safety for what it's worth. DJ Dell, D-line, Bama. Come on, guys. I mean, look. I'll shut up. Y'all know where I'm at. Y'all know the vibes. y'all know the vibes. I told y'all every single time he's on the board, I'm drafting him. But y'all can look at whatever position y'all want to. I'll shut up. Y'all know where I land. Don't care. Special teams don't matter anymore. No, I'm just here. No.
Go get that receiver.
My pet cat's on the board. F them special teams. Just
F
kidding.
the special teams. But Moody's on the board, obviously.
Go
Moody
get
is
that
there.
receiver. Go
You
get
want
that
to go
receiver.
Sure. I got you.
If he's there, I'm getting either him or Trey Dean.
Looks like he's
I know
gone.
you.
Yeah,
he's
Trey's gone.
Yeah, roll the dice. He's gone.
Well, give me Trey Dean.
You going
Safety.
Dean over Lipke?
Absolutely.
I don't even know who you are right now.
Well, we
I
ain't
don't like
getting
Trey Dean
kind
that
of-
much personally.
We're not.
I feel
getting-
like he's a lot like we have a lot of strong safety type of guys, and that's what he is.
Yeah,
in my
that's
opinion.
exactly what he is.
So I don't think we need him. I don't think he makes any sense. But they like him. They did a form. I don't know if it's formal or informal, but they talked to him.
Could have got Max.
4.75 safety though.
Could have got Max. Dale, another big body. Dale, tackle. No, okay.
I'm going Hunter. I'm on board with that.
Get your dude. Get your dude.
Oh, hold up.
I'm just going
Before
quick.
we lock that in,
Yeah.
slightly up is a guy that Dom has interested in. If I'm correct, TJ Bass. Is that a guy that you said you had seen at some point that you like?
No, you're thinking about Alex Forsyth, the center.
Oh, yeah.
The other guy. Okay.
And they got another kid that decided to stay in school. So
I'm just going to scroll here. Just see if anything else.
Tyrus Wheat's a guy they met with.
Yeah, Forsyth is
Forsyth.
here, though.
pick it. That
Over Hunter though. Hunter
All right.
seems like he would be
Okay.
an immediate contributor at some level, but
yes, he would be, but I think with what may be going on with Biotish in another year,
is right.
adding some versatility within the interior, Forsyth could come in and I think be a little bit better than what we have currently out of Farniok, whom they seem to love.
Right.
But Forsyth is a dude right there. But
I'll tell you what.
I would go Hunter.
I will sacrifice Hunter just because we drafted him so much. Let's switch it up.
Then
Let's
kicker.
switch it up.
and go watch Forsyth against your boy.
Let's
He
give
did.
people-
I remember he did good. I remember you showing the highlights.
Let's give people a different name. Let's go with Alex Forsyth here at 246.
And you got to think about the cap moving forward, right? We have
Yeah,
certain guys we got to
think-
pay,
yeah.
and
You got to think down the line, right?
can you
It ain't
afford
about just
Tyler?
this year.
Knowing you have another Tyler to pay and all that stuff. So-
Right. You got to think about it. So let's go. I like it. Let's go with Alex. Let's go with Alex right here, and let's wrap up this draft. Let's do it. Yeah, Oregon in the building. Let's
go. We killed this draft.
Let's go. Let's take let's take a look and see what PFF thinks about what we did. Nolan Smith was a B plus, but Tank was an A. They gave us a B for DA. Oh, they gave us a C for Bennett. Oh, we got the A for Clark. C minus for Mafi. Wow.
Bennett at that spot would be a steal. I don't care what they say. Clark, yeah, I think the whole chat was on board with Clark too, which is good. Because we don't always get a consensus where everybody likes the same player to spot, and Clark and Bennett were the two that it feels like everybody agreed with.
And then Toon with the A, Alex with the C plus. Get out of here! Come on now.
So
come on now.
Knowing how the board fell, Nolan or Cansey, I think either one would have been a great pick there.
Right.
Second pick, I like Tank Dell. Give me Dell or Tillman. Either one, I think. The rest of the board, I feel like after from 90 below, I think we definitely crushed it. 26 and 58, I like the picks, but I think either the guys you substitute, it's still a good draft regardless. So Stephen White said, you didn't get Darnell Washington, D minus.
Fair.
You know what tonight showed me? Tonight showed me that there is a true possibility, the last couple of our drafts, because we don't think Nolan's going to be there, but there's a true possibility of us being wiped out at 26, but day two still having great options.
Right.
So we talked about it before too, depending on how the board falls. If you're stuck, like let's say there's a run on cornerbacks. Let's say 5 cornerbacks go before us or something, and we get 4 quarterbacks, get a run of edge rushers, and some of the top receivers are off the board. There's a likelihood that you're looking at like a Keon White type of guy, Dalton Kincaid and some of the tight ends. And I like Kincaid, but I don't know that I really want him at 26. So trading out of round 1, but getting 2 extra day 2 picks and something in 2024 would be interesting at that point too.
Here's a question.
And especially look, because what we're seeing now in the transitioning here and what's happening as things are getting reset, wide receivers getting hella wiped all of a sudden. Right? So if that is wiped, and we kind of looked at the board and what was kind of laying there, if you trade back like 3 or 4 spots and pick up an extra second or third, you feel pretty good about what you're going to be able to get. So I think we're kind of seeing things develop in the right way. Maybe the wash standpoint down that you're talking about and what's going on, but an opportunity to move back a couple of spots to feel better about this draft a little bit down the line.
Right. And you know, one thing that just popped in my mind, is there anybody on our current roster that would make sense for another team out there to try to come and trade? Like, is there anybody we have that another team would covet and try to trade for one of our guys?
Yeah, I think I would say Dorrance Armstrong would be super attractive to a lot of teams because he's coming off of a 9-sack season. He's like 25, 26, and he's going to cost you like 6 to 7 million. Like that's somebody, if you need an edge rusher and you look at the guys in free agency, he's probably better than a lot of them. I don't know what you could get, but I think he's a guy that teams would have interest in.
I think the problem is the Cowboys don't have something that can let fly and reproduce. That's the problem. Is like going back to just in particular, not saying this guy's the same, but so like Kansas City moved on, right, from the Cheetah, but they got great value. You know, there's not a guy here within the Cowboys land that they could trade off where the value is going to be really in their in their rank, because the thing about Dorrance is last year of his deal, right? So it was trading for him, they got to pay him. If they would give up prospects, right, they got to pay him or draft capital. They have to pay him. Like there's nobody on the right. Look, do the Cowboys want to trade Diggs? Maybe you get a haul for Diggs, but they got to pay him not this year, but at least next year. There's something there, but then how do you look at cornerbacks? So when I start thinking about movable commodities, right, that you would trade that would behoove the Cowboys, I mean, who's the guy that pops out? No, there's tradable pieces. I agree there. There are some tradable pieces, but I don't think anything that ultimately behooves the Cowboys and what they want to do moving forward is where I would be at. And let's say, like, we're not paying Lamb. Okay, go get what you want to get. I don't think that works. Oh, we don't want to pay Diggs. Okay, there's some different sides of arguments about Diggs. I've heard them, but Diggs would be, to me, the tradable commodity that would help the Cowboys in whatever they wanted to do. They didn't want to pay a guy. Would be Diggs. If we're talking about the one guy that helps him, when I'm thinking that, what I'm trying to pick up is there a tradable piece that helps you from the cap side and gives you flexibility to go do things? That would be Trayvon Diggs. Just saying. I'm not saying I would trade him. Let me be clear. I'm not saying I would trade Trayvon Diggs. But we're talking about a piece that flips forward, helps you against the cap, lets you go do things. Maybe you trade him, you trade for Jalen Ramsey, whatever. I'm just saying, whatever you want to do. Trayvon Diggs is the only piece that moves the needle for the Cowboys if they were to make him a tradable commodity, in my opinion.
So, if he wasn't coming off of an injury, Terrence Steele would be the guy.
Sure, restricted free agent, different things, but
and still,
yeah, the injury there,
outside chance,
right?
That's why I'm interested to see the whole, whichever. Not tag. I guess it would be a tag that they would apply with him being a restricted free agent. Because I think if they slap a first-round tender on him, there actually might be a team out there that would be willing to give that up to pay to get him.
I know what you're doing here. You're not.
I don't think you can do a second-round tender, right? He's a guy, like, if you put a second, you'll have a whole list of teams that...
Don wants a first-round tender to go draft. No. Don't be fooled here,
He wants Darnell Wright, I know.
Yeah, he's positioning for 26. I know what Dom's doing here.
That's my dude.
I ain't mad at it. I'm just saying, hey, I know what you're doing, player.
That's my dude right there. But no, Steele is better than him.
But it's interesting. But here's the thing, though. But to your point, if it's a first-round tender, you want to pay him, and we talked about the money already. 14 and up, right? 14's a deal. 15 may be a deal. Up. But if you flipped it and you took that pick, right, boom, and you went and got your guy, you save money, you have flexibility, and you end up with 2 first-round picks. So I get it. I get the team building concept there that Stephen Jones is oblique to.
Because you're about to pay your right tackle upwards of $18 million a year. At some point, it's going to kick in. Your starting cornerback 1, Trayvon Diggs, is going to get it. Lamb is about to get it. Wide receiver 1.
Maybe your center.
Your center's probably going to get it. Your quarterback is getting all this money.
Yeah.
Then you got Parsons coming down the pike. So, man, that's a lot of money, especially on one side of the ball.
And again, I think ultimately, as we're talking about currently constituted right now for the Cowboys, I agree with Steele. You put the first round tender, see what happens. But Steele and Diggs are the done. You're paying Lamb. I mean, there's no question on Lamb, in my opinion. You're paying Lamb. But those would be the two guys, like, that's uncomfortable, but you got to be uncomfortable. You're going to get actual gain in a trade. Would be Diggs and Steele would be the two guys tradable if you were to make those moves. Not saying that the Cowboys would, but from a commodity, sure. Oh, you're right. I mean, Dorrance Armstrong could be that guy. He's going to have some things about him, but him being on the last year of his deal is going to hurt the trade value, in my opinion.
Yeah, I get it, but I'm just looking at he won't cost them that much this year. They will have to re-sign him, obviously, and he's young and he's an ascending player.
What would you say they could get for him?
I don't know. Probably not anything high. You're probably looking at like a 4th-round pick, maybe a 3rd at the most. Okay. Probably a 4th, realistically. And
would you pull the trigger on a 3rd, though?
See, I wouldn't. Now, if you draft an edge rusher or sign someone, or maybe bring Fowler back and draft edge early, then maybe you could make a draft day trade potentially. Okay. But I don't know. I'd have to look at how much money it would actually free up. But
gotcha.
He could be a guy maybe. But I get where you guys are going. I personally, I know Steele's coming off of an injury, but I don't love this offensive line class enough to risk it. I think you have to put the first-round tender on him and try to work out a deal. Yep. But at the same time, like you absolutely cannot put a second-round tender on him because somebody will give him an offer.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Big facts. Man, with that being said, man, that's going to wrap up episode 4. Man, what a great time. Appreciate everybody coming through and rocking with us. What position we doing next week, guys? What do you want to do next week? We wide receiver this week. Where you want to go next week?
Corner.
Kicker. You want to hold it? You want to save it? You want to... Which one do you want? You want to debate it now? Or you want to wait? We'll talk about it and now.
I think corner is
you want to do corner?
For me. Yeah.
Cornerback. All right, corner. All right, guys. Next week, episode 5, top 10 cornerbacks on deck. Next week, we'll dive into that. We'll definitely get into the cornerbacks, wide receivers this week. Once again, man, tell a friend, come over here, sub. Enjoy this content that we're giving to y'all, man. We appreciate y'all rocking with us. I want to bevy out of here. We'll have a conversation on the back end. 11:30. It's 11:07, 11:30. Jerry had a lot to say. We talked about it a little extensively. First off, we're going to go back over to space in the Twitter land, and we'll definitely have a good time and do it. Stephen White, don't care about your D-. Take that D-, shine it up real nice and shiny, turn that son bitch sideways, and shove it up your can. No, I'm just joking, man.
I know Steven, though. He wants this giant freak tight end. He wanted to move Valesko to tight end last year. If we got Darnell Washington, doesn't matter what else you take, he's giving us a.
Don't worry, we'll trade our second-round pick for Pitts. Pitts train rides again. Just playing with you.
Steven, I promise you, one of these mock drafts is just going to align perfectly where we can take it.
Yeah, we'll line up. We'll get it, Steve. Just stick with us. We'll get there. With that being said, man, appreciate everybody for rocking with us as always. See y'all next Friday, man, and we'll see you on the space here in about 20 minutes. Or I will, not these guys. Peace.